Good evening. We're going to start tonight with our public hearing for the consideration to increase the fiscal year 2023 Mixville Open Space and Trails capital appropriation from $150,000 to $410,064 for installation of a boardwalk, ramps, and sidewalks to enhance accessibility at Mixville Park. We have some very special guests, some that we'll get to right now, and others that we will talk about when the regular meeting kicks off. But for now, let's start with Madam Clerk. Would you call the roll, please?
Peter Talbot.
Here.
Jim Jinks. Here. Dina Allard.
Here.
Patricia Kramer. Fiona Pearson. Here. Don Walsh. Here. Greg Wolf. Here. David Veliber. Here. And John Milone. Here. A quorum is present.
Thank you. We have in attendance tonight PAC 114 from Highland School, and I will ask our members to please present the colors and then proceed to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much to PAC 114 at Highland for leading us in the pledge and presenting the colors tonight. And I hope you were able to get some information on our town hall during your tour. Thanks to Mr. Veliber for bringing this group to us tonight, and thank you for being here. We appreciate it. So our public hearing then, if I could have Noel, please read the legal notice.
The Town Council of the Town of Cheshire will hold a public hearing at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, March 12, 2024, in the Town Hall Council Chambers, 84 South Main Street, Cheshire, Connecticut, to consider increasing the FY 2023 Mixville Open Space and Trails capital appropriation from $150,000 to $410,064 for installation of a boardwalk, ramps, and sidewalks to enhance accessibility at Mixville Park. $260,064 of this project cost will be offset by a CT Deep Recreation Trails grant. Electors and citizens will be heard at the public hearing concerning this matter, dated at Cheshire, Connecticut, this 26th day of February 2024.
Thank you. And Mr. Kimball, will you be handling the presentation of the subject?
Sure, I'll be very brief, but at our last meeting, we authorized application to the CT Deep Recreation Trails Grant program. We are applying for $260,064, and so because this would bring the previously approved 2023 capital project that the Town Council had authorized in 2022 for the fiscal 23 capital budget for Mixville Open Space and Trails improvements, from $150,000, this would bring it to $410,064. Because that brings it over $250,000 under our charter, that requires a public hearing for that appropriation to go into effect. So that's why we're here tonight, to hear from the public any comments on the proposal. Thank you.
If there are any of members of the public who would like to speak on the subject at hand, please come up to the podium. If you would just do your, state your name and address for the record, please.
Tucker Deming, 230 Oregon Road. It's the first, really, I've been aware of this appropriation here. But it seems to me that austerity should be more in front of us than a continuing of, would be nice to have the trails all neatened up and bridges installed. But I think we have to stop pretending. I think there's great forces here at work, and they're not because of us necessarily, but they're going to be descending upon us. I think we ought to set back and re-register our priorities here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deming. Anyone else would like to speak on the subject at hand? Seeing none, I'll close this public hearing. Which brings us to our regular meeting of Tuesday, March 12th. We have done the roll call and the pledge, which brings us to our second group of very special guests that we have with us this evening. And that is the recognition of 2021-23 Town Council members Sandy Pavano, Sylvia Nichols, and David Barowie. If you, I mean, we can do one at a time, or if you'd like to, if there's safety in numbers, if you'd like to come up to the podium, and I will read your individual proclamations and then receive the congratulations of the council. That would be awesome. And I know it says 21-23, but I know that all of you served longer than just that period. And I'll start with my friend Sandy Pavano. Whereas Sandy Pavano served on the town council from 21 to 23, and whereas Sandy Pavano devoted an incredible amount of time and energy to her role and fostered cooperation and teamwork in the subcommittees that she chaired, and whereas Sandy Pavano previously also served on the Cheshire Board of Education. Whereas Sandy Pavano has earned the appreciation of the citizens and officials of the town of Cheshire for her devotion, dedication, and efforts in service to her town. Therefore, I, Peter J. Talbot, Mayor and Chair of the Town Council, on behalf of the Town Council and all the citizens of Cheshire, by this certificate of recognition, gratefully acknowledge the significant positive impact Sandy Pavano has had as a town councilor and leader for the town of Cheshire, dated at Cheshire, Connecticut, this 12th day of March, 2024. What I will say is it mentions in the proclamation that Sandy started out on the Board of Education, and that's where her and I sat together for a good period of time on the Board of Ed, as we were just kind of beginning our political careers, although I like to think of it more that it was more of a community service career than it was a political career. Sandy, we had a lot of fun. You were there first. You were a very good mentor to me. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your friendship over the years as well. And I would certainly open it up to any of my colleagues who would like to address Councilwoman Pavano.
I want to echo your sentiment about Sandy. Sandy has been truly a dedicated servant to this town for a number of years. She's given of her time and her knowledge, and I truly appreciate everything that you have done to help me, to help this council, to help this town, and well-deserved rest now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sandy, it was always a pleasure serving with you on this and other committees as well. obviously echo all the sentiments, and we're going to miss you on the council. It's always a pleasure having you here. But I must say that, and I'm going to echo the same sentiment to the next recipient as well. But you were always a great, having a great neighbor here up on the council. Always good to bounce things off of, and it was always a pleasure serving with you. So thank you.
Jen, I'm sorry.
That's all right, Peter. I also wanted to thank Cindy for her mentorship, and also Sylvia and David when they come up for the same thing. I mean, as a new member of the council, my first term, I learned a lot from each one of you in different ways, from each of you in different things, but each of you brought so much knowledge to me. I'm so grateful personally, so thank you.
I just want to address all three of you. I did not have the privilege of working with you. However, I can say as a new council person, I fully appreciate the time and energy that you have provided to our community. I feel we have big shoes to fill, and I feel like Cheshire is a wonderful place to live, thanks in part to your efforts. So thank you.
Moving to a woman I have known for many, many, many years, probably more than either one of us would care to think about. But this certificate of recognition is for Sylvia Nichols. Whereas Sylvia Nichols' many years of experience on the town council were invaluable, and she had great accomplishments during her tenure. And whereas Ms. Nichols took an active role chairing subcommittees with great success, and passionately supported the many boards and committees as town council liaison. And whereas Sylvia Nichols has earned the appreciation of the citizens and officials of the town of Cheshire for her devotion, dedication, and countless volunteer hours in service to her town. Now therefore I, Peter J. Talbot, Mayor and Chair of the Town Council, on behalf of the Town Council and all the citizens of Cheshire, by this certificate of recognition, gratefully acknowledge the significant positive impact Sylvia Nichols has had as a town councilor and leader for the town of Cheshire. Dated Cheshire, Connecticut, this 12th day of March, 2024. As I mentioned, Sylvia and I have known each other for a good many years, and when my mom was around, there weren't too many occasions where she didn't stop by the flower box to visit Ms. Nichols to get her flowers. But your incredible length of service to this community is to be commended, and we thank you and appreciate all of the things that you have done, not only as a businesswoman, but as a leader in this community. So thank you, Sylvia. Mr. Walsh.
Well, long before I got a chance to serve with Sylvia, she actually did the flowers for my wedding, too. So I'm sure she did flowers for many people's weddings. She probably doesn't remember them, but we do. And but having served with her, not only on the council, but on the school modernization committee and the personnel committee, I could see the time and effort she put into everything she did. She worked tirelessly during the contract seasons when we had to really make sure we were doing the right thing for the town as well as our employees. And I think it's a credit to her that things went so smoothly the last 4 or 6 years. I think she's done a great job. I'm going to miss her, but I know that she's only a phone call away, and I'm sure she will be attending some of these meetings with us and telling us when we're doing wrong and telling us when we're doing right. So I look forward to that. Thank you.
Mr. Veliber.
Thank you very much. Sylvia, it's always been a pleasure. I've known Sylvia a long time as well, and having the opportunity to interact with her not only here on the council, but other places as well. It's really, truly amazing how much time and energy she puts into everything that she does. And the best part is she puts time, energy, in, and it always comes out great. So that is amazing, and so we truly appreciate all the work you've done on the council and all those phone calls, Sylvia, what do you think about this? Always a great person to sounding board. I'm sure any of you on this side will probably give her a call too. She's a great sounding board. So, but the only downside is apparently I have some very, very large shoes to fill as the new library board liaison. So, but Sylvia, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for all you do.
Mr. Malone.
So when I first moved to Cheshire many years ago, I went to a chamber function at your flower shop, and I didn't know you, and I didn't know you for many years after. I only got to meet you when I started to run for the council. I still remember it vividly, in one of the most kind of exciting things about moving to Cheshire, saying, wow, this is really a cool community. This is really something. There were a bunch of people there. The arrangements were beautiful. The energy was tremendous, and I really felt I had moved to a great community. So I want to thank you for all you did on the business side for this community. And of course, as I said before, Sylvia, thank you for all your mentoring for the time that we spent together.
Which brings us to, last but certainly not least, David Barawi. Whereas David Barawi served on the town council from 1985 to 1987, 89 to 2001, and 2019 to 2023, a total of 18 years. Apologies. And whereas throughout his tenure, he was committed to his role as town councilor and also served as mayor and chair. And whereas Mr. Barawi's strong leadership as Budget Committee Chair through the annual budget process demonstrated not only his experience and years of experience, but also his dedication to acting in the best interests of our taxpayers. And whereas Mr. Barawi fostered compromise and collaboration with the other town councilors and staff members and remained thoughtful in the face of many challenging decisions. Now, therefore, I, Peter J. Talbot, Mayor and Chair of the Town Council, on behalf of the Town Council and all of the citizens of Cheshire, by this certificate of recognition, gratefully acknowledge the significant positive impact David Barawi has had as a town councilor and leader for the town of Cheshire, dated at Cheshire, Connecticut, this 12th day of March, 2024. Again, David, this is like kind of like old home week for me too, with having three very good friends who I've not only known for a long time in the community, but have served on this dais with, and I miss all three of you. Your record of service is unparalleled in this community, and David, we had a lot of great discussions, especially during budget time, with regard to how things should go. I will say this to all three of you, we didn't always agree, and that's not a bad thing. It's actually a very good thing. It's good to have a mixture of ideas and thoughts, and the process is vetted out fully. I appreciate everything that all three of you have done, not only for the council, but for the community as a whole. Thank you. I would love to have you come by, and I can give you your certificates, and you can receive the congratulations of the council as well. Mr. Jinks, I'm sorry.
We can't even make our own decisions anymore.
I just want to say a few words. I wasn't going to let you leave without saying something. So I got here 4 years ago, and you guys were all here on the council. Obviously you've served for many, many, many years. I think most people don't realize it isn't just the years. It's just the amount of time and effort put into all that service. It's truly remarkable how much time you put into it. I learned a ton from watching you guys, and I consider you all kind of indirect mentors for me. It's really just a tremendous opportunity to be able to serve with you. There's somewhat of a passing of a torch has happened here, but you guys were a big part of, having kind of building a foundation, especially for me. That's how I feel. about you guys. So I just want to say thank you so much for all your service. Thank you for everything that you've, as I said, you've taught me a lot, and I appreciate that very much. Truly do. But the the meetings and all the time that you put into this over the years, people say that we don't get a lot out of this, and we don't get paid for this. Obviously, we don't necessarily. But I'm certain that over time, you guys have made so many great friends, and you've got to meet so many people over the years. So that's really the kind of payoff, and it must be just an enormous amount of people that you know from your experience in the community, and it's just a great thing for you to be a part of. So thank you.
I too just wanted to thank all three of you. I never served with you, obviously, but many conversations at fall festivals. I've sat at that dais or talked at that dais, and you've listened to me, and you've asked questions, and you've been very, very supportive of many of the initiatives that I've worked on in this town. All three of you unanimously supported our sustainability team and our work towards bringing sustainable CT to our community and to the resources that organization was able to provide. And I appreciate the conversations, the mentoring. Sylvia, we've emailed back and forth a number of times. I've listened, I'm still listening. I too have learned a great deal from all three of you and appreciate you, and thank you for all your service.
Mr. Walsh.
I just wanted to just say one more thing to Mr. Bowery, who, I don't know what you're going to do with all your free time the next few months, but please feel free to come here and give us your input if you want, because we would really, you've done such a great job over the last few years with this budget, and how you do it, I don't know. When you have a job that is a tax preparation job and it's the busiest time of the year for you guys, I don't know where you're going to probably get some sleep this next couple of weeks, but I think I learned a lot from how to move numbers so that we can make this town as good as it is, and I think you saved this town a lot of money, and I think the people of this town owe you a lot for what you have done during the whole budget process over the last several years, because you had some unique ways of figuring out ways to save money and how to use money one way or another. And it was, for somebody who's not a bookkeeper and not an accountant, I get lost in those numbers sometimes, but you made it simple for us, so I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. David, what can I say? It's always been a pleasure. It's been great to have you as a colleague, as a mentor, and as a friend. I appreciate all that you've done, not only for me, but for this town and for all that you do. And I expect you still to continue to do. I'm sensing that there's going to be a fourth group into the list of returning to the council. So at least we hope so. So we will be more than pleased to have you back. So. David, good luck on your on what Don thinks is going to be your free time, but I'm more than sure you'll find ways to fill it. So, David, thank you so much for all you do.
And David, as with Sylvia, when I first moved to Cheshire, one of the things I remember very vividly was your ski shop. My sons were all there. We were getting our skis every year, and it was a big part of my experience being a new person in the community. And so you've given a lot to this community, not only on the council, but on the business side as well, as I know Sylvia has. So thank you for that. But more importantly, thank you for the work you did, as Don said, on the budget for this community. It was invaluable. I learned so much watching you and sitting on the budget committee with you. So thank you very much.
And I would ask my colleagues, our staff, and residents that are in attendance to please joining me in thanking Sandy Pavano, Sylvia Nichols, and David Barowie.
sometime in 2026. Numbers are coming.
Oh,
A lot to it.
For the north
Oh, yeah.
so juggling plans.
Nothing's easy as they say.
That brings us to the public comment portion of our meeting. If there are members of the public that would like to address the council, now is your time to do so.
Good evening. My name is Tom Grimshaw. I've lived in Cheshire since 1981. I live at 470 Riverside Drive, Cheshire, Connecticut, on the river. And I've come tonight for a bunch of things. One is I do work for the city. I work as the official dog pooper picker-upper at the dog park. And it doesn't pay well, but it pays off. And we have put into place a situation where we've come up with many, many changes that we requested through a process called continuous quality improvement. And that's where you use the people that are closest to the action to make the suggestions and take the ownership for the changes. And we've come up with that, and we met with the Parks and Recreation Service, and they said the next thing to do is to come here. We've got a lot of changes that we would like to give to you. I will get them to you after John and I meet once more. But it's going to be a massive change if we are going to continue to improve. If we're not, and we can't afford it, then we've got to stop doing what we're doing. But we've already made major improvements. And we got people coming from out of state to see us. And Southbury is the 10th most important dog park in the country, supposedly. And we got people from Southbury coming now to Cheshire because of the changes that we've made. So we will be coming back to you with those specifics, because it does require some major changes in the way we do business if we're going to continue. So I'll come back with John, and we'll, or if there's a way I can meet with you departmentally to do these changes. But we need to get approval from this body to make these changes. So I'll be back next time on that. I also talked about wanting a chance to mention that there's people being taken advantage of in this city. And I've been a victim of it. And that is that there is no way that we can present to a body, I don't believe, a situation whereby our land is taken from us through a sale of an adjoining property. And as I said, I've been here since 1981. And I have lost now I had two acres, 1.95 acres, and I'm now down to 4.75. And I asked the person, we've got to go to City Hall before we make a decision, and the realtor stepped in and sold it without us even coming down and making a presentation on this. So I wish that there was a way that the city council could get involved in some manner in protecting people like myself on these issues. So if there's a way I can, I'll be glad to come in and spend time with departments on this. But it's very, very serious. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I apologize, I didn't have my mic on. Mr. Grimshaw, thank you. I have had the occasion to listen to your presentation at Park and Rec, so I know exactly the work you do, and thank you for everything you do at the dog park. I know that you're going to be meeting with John Gawlak. I'm sure that John will be bringing some of those changes and ideas forward to us during our budget process. I hope that you can check the schedule, and when Parks and Rec and Mr. Gawlak are in to present their budget, I hope that you will join us and be a member of the public that evening. I think that would be appropriate. With regard to the other matter, I would like to have a conversation with you offline regarding that, and I'll get appropriate staff involved as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Mr.
it.
Grimshaw.
Good evening. Adam Grippo, Balsam Place, also a member of the Board of Education. Firstly, I'd like to personally thank David, Sandy, and Sylvia for their service. It's heartbreaking to have you get your certificates tonight, but hopefully, we know service is in the blood, and I'm sure you'll keep busy. Secondly, I was mostly here tonight because I thought it was the budget presentation, and I was wrong about that, so I'll see you next week. But I saw that the Board of Education line item was probably the biggest thing in there, and so I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussions about that, and you shouldn't feel afraid to reduce that number. Of course, that's just me speaking as a citizen. Lastly, of course, this is a spending consideration, is the North End School project and the lack of sidewalks on Marion Road. I think as the plan stands right now, if a child who lives on Balsam Place were to go attend that elementary school in a few years, they would have to be bused across the street because of the speed and of, I guess, the speed of the cars, and that there would be no sidewalk on the other side, and there's no crosswalk there currently. A dog was just recently killed at the intersection of Balsam Place because of the speed of a car, and I think the dog had escaped like for 10 minutes and literally was run over. That's how fast it happened. Terrible situation. But so I'd like for the council to consider sidewalks on Marion Road, because I don't know, I personally think it's ridiculous to take a bus just to go across the street, or maybe there's some other consideration with flashing lights or something to at least have a crosswalk there in your plans. So thank you.
Mr. Grippo, thank you. We will. We look forward to seeing you again next week.
Yes.
As you mentioned, the education line item is the largest. It always is.
And I did identify reductions with the help of Vin Massiana. Of course, he wouldn't want to admit that. But so they are, I do have some in my back pocket that maybe I'll share with you.
But as far as the budget goes, we also, thanks to Mr. Kimball, we tackle operating and capital at the same time. So later on, when we start talking about the capital, we do have a couple years prior to the North End School coming online, but it is this council's intention to, take a very serious look at the sidewalk issue up there. So
Great. Thank
we
you.
appreciate it. Thanks for your comments tonight. Anyone else? Seeing none, thank you. Brings us to the approval of minutes of the February 13th, 2024 Town Council meeting. Do I have a motion? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Velabar, for the second. All those in favor? Vote is unanimous. The consent calendar for March 12th. Mr. Jenks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Be it resolved that the Town Council approves resolution number 031224-1, consent calendar for March 12, 2024. Be it resolved the Town Council approves the consent calendar for March 12, 2024 as follows.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Ms. Allard, thank you. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. There are no items removed from consent. Old business brings us to Mr. Gussenberg and our update from the School Building Committee. And I understand that we have some good news that happened last night at P&Z that we can talk about.
I normally sit over there, but I wanted to show you a few pictures, so I'm going to go here, and then I can sit down in if you'd like. I do want to start off by thanking the council and thanking the three members who were here tonight, because we all know the last school that was built in this town was Highland School in the 1970s. Over the last 50 years, there's been discussion about building new schools, and it didn't happen. And it only happened because the council was very supportive of it. The council was unanimously in favor and communicated that out to the entire community. I had the opportunity of working closely with Sylvia in particular. We were both on school modernization. We were on a couple of subcommittees together, spent a lot of time traveling around the state, talking to staff members. There was a lot of background work that went into the process, and I think the entire community should be thanking all of our members here. With that said, our design development estimates for the North End School have shown we're presently under budget for the North End School. It was approved last night by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I'm going to show you a couple of pictures in a second, particularly focusing on sidewalks. The design development estimates for the new Norton School have just come in. We'll be discussing those in depth at our meeting on Thursday. They do indicate that we are over budget in that school. A lot of that extra cost is due to taking down Norton School, which is an expensive process. So that's upcoming. Plans for both the North End School and Norton have been presented to Inland Wetlands Commission and P&Z. As I mentioned, the North End School was approved by P&Z and has been approved by Inland Wetlands. The Norton School has been approved by Inland Wetlands. The first presentation was done yesterday to P&Z. It was a very positive one, and I'm confident that we'll be seeing approval of that very soon. Phasing of the two projects is planned at this point, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the phasing when we get going here. There's some preparatory work that's going to be done beginning this summer. So I want the council to be aware. If you start getting some community questions, I think it's important to be aware of what's happening. So let me see if I can get the computer up and running again. Okay. So you've seen the North End School. The mass to the right, down below, is the office. Up above is the media center, which is a two-floor facility. Part of it is downstairs. There's a large stairway that the students can sit at for presentations, things like that. And then upstairs, the middle section is the gymnasium. The section on the left-hand side is the cafeteria. Just to get you oriented, let me come around 1 second because I want to point out just a couple of things. The There we go. Okay. All right. When we went to P&Z, obviously the issue of sidewalks was something that was brought up and discussed at length. From our end, there is already a sidewalk that runs along Jarvis Street and along Marion Drive. We have added our own sidewalk that comes from, this is our preschool part of the building, and a sidewalk that comes here and then runs all the way up to Marion and goes across. So that was one addition that was put in. The second sidewalk that we added was one that comes from the building, comes all along the bus route up to here, and then over to the end of our land. So any student walking from one of the housing areas in this area can easily walk up, go across, and get to the building. We can't control, obviously, the sections beyond our property here, but we have made it easy to get to the building itself. There is a small section of sidewalk down by Courier Woods that's an area that's not complete, and I know that Sean and I have talked about that as a very small piece that would allow Courier Woods students to walk up. Beyond that, that's going to be something for the town to take a look at. So I wanted you to have an opportunity. These were presented at our last meeting, and it's exciting to begin to see what the school will look like. This is the entranceway to the North End School. As you're walking in, the office is to the left, the gymnasium is to the, the office to the right, the gymnasium is to the left. Up above, you're looking at windows from the media center, and these are from the gym. That's an interior view of the gym itself. You have built-in risers. They're ones that can be folded up but can also be brought out. For community activities, you've got a full-size basketball court, but also smaller courts for PE classes. A stage down at the end, which actually opens on both sides. You'll see it also in the cafeteria. It has soundproof walls on both sides, so it can be opened up if you have a large event. They can be opened up into the gym, or it can be closed and opened up into the cafeteria. This is a picture of the cafeteria itself. You'll see the stage that we were just discussing here, the serving area. So let's see. And then this picture I'm just showing you, it's a typical classroom wing. The reason I'm showing it to you, you'll notice this one class at the end is skewed out a little bit. And the reason that we've done that is because we wanted to create an interesting area instead of just a straight hallway going down and going to the outside doors. This allows you to come through and have an open area where you could bring small groups of students, or you could bring a couple of classrooms if you were doing a presentation or a discussion. And that's basically done at the end of each of the major hallways for that particular group of people. So this is the Norton School. And the Norton School, these are classroom wings down this end. The gym is behind, as is the cafeteria, and the office is in the front. Art room and music and media center are in that middle section. Just so that you're aware, I know busing is always an issue, and when we were in front of P&Z yesterday, a lot of the discussion took place with the buses, parent drop-off, traffic issues, things like that. Those people who live near Norton School now recognize that the building, which is right here, the present building, has a very, very short entranceway to it, and the cars often are right out on Route 42. The new school obviously is going to be substantially farther back, and there are two totally separate driveways. A driveway that's here, which pretty much mirrors the driveway that's there now, that comes up and around for parent drop-off and parking, and then back out again. A separate driveway, so you're totally separating your buses and your cars, that's coming up, around, for the bus drop-off, and then down again. So there'll be a large area here where parents can queue up, hopefully not coming out onto the road at all, and being able to move there. Yes, sir.
Quick question, how much of the land that we acquired with that house recently are you using now? Are you using all of that land or some of it?
That land is right in this corner here. So we're essentially running that bus driveway is going through that additional land that we've picked
Just
up.
curious, okay.
That,
It's not
Oh,
the,
in fact,
it's
we're
not that
using-
whole parcel.
It's
yeah,
about
we're
a third
using
of
less
it.
than half of that
Yeah, it's
property.
about a third of it. It's going straight through where the garage building is. That's where the driveway is there.
All right.
Right.
Balance
And
the
then
parcel.
it'll be up to the town what they want to do with the rest of that land. But we've taken that one piece essentially to square off the Norton property. The one other thing I wanted to point out to you is there is an access way presently that comes from Sharon Drive. That, when we are all done, will have an electronic closure on it for emergency vehicles. It is going to be used extensively during the construction, and I wanted to run that through with you a little bit. We talked to P&Z about this yesterday. It obviously may come up in your conversations with people in the community, so we wanted you to be aware. We have to, because of the fact that we have a building that's functioning already, we have to phase this project in somewhat. So you're going to see come this summer, phase one, construction of the relocated drive, clear and grub and install the culvert, create temporary play area. So there's going to be some play equipment and materials that are moved from the back of the building to the front. There's going to be a drive that's put here along eventually with a fence that will keep the present building and the new construction separated, but also based on the emergency vehicle access will allow full access throughout the construction. We'll also be bringing that road in from the back, and there's a culvert right in here that has to be built. So that's the work that's going to start this summer. And you will begin to see some things happening very quickly. Starting in around December, you're going to see full construction, and we hope. We'll be getting out to bid this coming fall. The construction area, which you can see here in green, will be all fully fenced in. There will be a temporary parking lot that'll be built in this area so that construction people can come in off of Sharon and use that parking without disturbing the school in any way at all. The only time we'll be going through the school area might be before school or after school if we have some very large pieces of steel or something like that that really can't come through the other area, and we would work with the schools that way. So for the most part, we're working very hard to make sure that the construction is done in such a way that we don't disturb the school. But they've also talked yesterday about, ideas for bringing the school students into the process, letting them see the construction that's going on, some things that are happening there. The third phase of this will be in the summer of 2026. At that point, the building is done. The staff will use this as a temporary parking area, at which point we can go in and demolish the old building and then do the parking lots that are here. And that'll take us, that's summer 2026. Doing the parking lots actually is the next phase. And that's in September to November, completing the parking lot. If all goes well, everything should be substantially complete by that November 2026. This, what is now a temporary parking lot, will be converted into a field, and then the parking will be put in here. So I wanted you to see that because, as I said, I think that it very well could become a topic of conversation. We will be communicating with the people in the neighborhood, make sure that they are fully aware of all of our plans. We did have one person get up at the meeting yesterday, was very appreciative of the design team and how they've addressed any of the concerns that she's had up to this point. And we have done several meetings that have been open to the neighbors and people in that area. But we realize too there'll need to be some real reach out as we get into that construction. So with that said, if you'd like, I'll be glad to sit down and answer any questions. And
Thank you, Mr. Gussenberg, and please, I know it gets repetitive, but I don't think we can say it enough. Please extend our thanks to the committee as well, because you guys are doing a great job and much needed. I'll throw it to my colleagues, and then I have a couple before we, Mr. Malone.
I just have one. Getting back to that piece of property that the town acquired, if you're not using it and you don't need it long-term, I wonder if any consideration's been given to underlying zoning requirements to see if we can leave enough land so it could be sold for income for the community?
Yes, so the remaining portion does meet the R20 zoning in the area.
So you've left enough, so
Almost
if
to the
we decide to do
right.
that, we have the option.
So it's ultimately up to the town council whether we decide to.
I think that's great. Okay.
Sell it, we would need to subdivide it, but other than that, that would be it.
And that's been our assumption all along, is that it would get subdivided, and we're just using that piece, and the other part would be.
Of course, we want to make sure we don't need it for anything, but if we don't, it'd be wonderful to get the money, some of that money or all that money back. Yes, okay.
Ms. Pearson.
You said that the project for the north end is right now under budget. Can you provide some clarification in terms of?
I can give you exact numbers if you want.
Thank you.
Keeping in mind that budget numbers at this point are estimates, and those estimates are done by a couple of, let's see if I can see here. There we go. So we have two different companies that will do budgets or estimates for us based on the design documents that they are given. PAX is affiliated with our architects, Tecton, and they are estimating right now that the project would cost $69,564,403. You can see up at the top the actual budget for this school is $73,500,700. So they're saying that we actually are under budget by 3.9%. Or 3.9 million, I'm sorry, which is 5.4%. O&G, which is our construction company, also does an estimate, and their number is $71,569,705, showing that we're about 1.93 million below, which is about 2.6%. Average those two out, we're just about $2 million under budget right now at the North End School, about 2.8%.
And the logical follow-up to that is, you mentioned that Norton was currently over. Do you have the numbers of what Norton is over because of the demo work?
Not yet, because those are numbers I just got yesterday, and the committee hasn't even looked at them yet. That will be on our agenda for Thursday night. Next time I come, I'll be glad to share those with you. But it's looking like those numbers will be about $2 million over budget. But the
So
exact.
based on the numbers that you have up there, we're on budget when you balance both.
We are, yes. The only difference is unless something is done, Jeff is smiling, unless something is done, the two projects are separate projects. And you'd have to get approval from the state.
Yeah.
And when we went out to referendum, the referendum was for $166 million. It didn't clarify this X amount for this school and X amount for that school. However, when we go to the state has set up very distinct projects with a budget. And in order to move money or increase it in one budget and decrease it in another, we would have to go back to the state and get some kind of a permission from them. So it's not just a matter of, oh, we'll take the money from here and put it over there. We would have to go through a process to do that. I anticipate that the committee, when they meet on Thursday, will start talking about some potential reductions in the Norton School project and see what potentially could be done before we would look at doing anything up at the state level. When I mentioned it to our architects and our design team, they've made it pretty clear that they wouldn't want to go up to the state before we went out to bid, that they would want to see what the real numbers are, the final numbers, and not base it on design development numbers. Jeff, did you want to jump in on that? Okay.
Mr. Jinks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just on the Norton School, I think you'd mentioned, the demolition of the school happening in November. Is that what you were saying? November of '26?
Demolition of the school. Actually, we would be finishing the school, the new school, in. Well, that's a different spreadsheet. As soon as the summer comes, and moving from Norton into the new school starting in June, as soon as school is over. That move would be made at that point, and we would begin the process of taking down Norton at that time. But it's going to take more than just the 8 weeks of the summer to do all of the work that needs to be done there before we can fully take it out.
Right, okay, but as of 26-20, that's the first school year that the kids will be in that school still. That's the target date still? 26, 27?
The target date is still, we haven't moved the target at all. So here we are completing the demolition September to November. We've already moved into the new school that summer. So as soon as school is over in June 2026, everything moves into the new school. We start the demolition process over that summer. We continue that demolition process from September to November. Demoing the building, doing all the grading, getting the parking lots ready, and then by November 2026, if the weather holds out well, we are fully complete, essentially complete. There's still some work that may need to be done in the spring.
Okay, thanks.
Ms. Allard.
Actually, that answered my question, so I'm all set. Thank you.
Ms. Kramer.
This has a bit to do with the budget question and a little bit of the construction question. Both of these schools are being constructed on a parallel timeline, or is Norton ahead of North End?
No, we are looking essentially to go out to bid with both schools next fall and start construction in December of next year. So, or of this year, December of this year. So at this point, I mean, we've been pricing the North End School a few weeks in front of the Norton School. That's just the way that we've happened to be working the process. But no, we anticipate going out to bid with both schools at the same time and starting construction of both schools at the same time, which hopefully will give us some good pricing because we can, get certain contractors, certain materials that will be bought in larger bulk that way.
And this is in regard to the being over budget by $2 million on the Norton School. We haven't started construction yet, but this is just a proposed overage. As of right now, it was an oversight on how much it would cost to take down the existing school that's been newly discovered, or how did we come to learn about that?
Yeah, no, I
over
wouldn't
budget?
say it's strictly because of the new school. I mean, when we finished schematic design, we made some changes at that time, and you'll recall one of the changes we made was to go to the hybrid geothermal system. But we knew at that time we were still over budget, but it was schematic design, and you don't know how accurate those numbers are when you're doing it. So we said, all right, well, I think we cut $9 or $10 million at that time, and we knew that we were a couple of million from where we wanted to be, but we also didn't know how accurate the schematic design numbers were. So we said, let's go with those, and here we are. The now design development, much more detailed, much more specific, and we find that we're still over budget. So that's where the committee is going to have to massage those numbers a little bit. We haven't talked about them yet. They just came in a couple of days ago. They've just gone out to the committee. We haven't analyzed them at all. That'll be our work on Thursday. We may find some places that we can make some adjustments without harming program at all. We'll see where that goes. So I wouldn't, jump on that yet. I think it's a little preliminary to be speaking too strongly about that budget number. The North End has gone through our process. The Norton School hasn't yet. We just got the numbers.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Walsh.
Thank you. Just a quick thing on going back to Norton and the demolition and everything that probably won't be completed until November. So because of that, obviously the buses are going to have to be routed a different way, and the cars, will they be using Sharon Drive for the beginning of that year as a entrance and exit, or are they all going to be going into one entrance?
The cars will continue to come in through the driveway that is off of Route 42. The buses, actually, there'll be a temporary drive that will come around the back of the building and out to Sharon Drive. So for a couple of months,
they're going to
there
use
will
that.
be buses going in and out of Sharon Drive. And then that area then will be closed off for emergency vehicles only.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Mr. Gussenberg, thank you very much. We'll
You're
look
welcome.
forward to seeing you Thursday night on TV and seeing you at our next meeting.
All right, thank you very much.
Next up is the Bartlam Park South update. A lot of big projects. Mr. Kimball.
Big projects. Thank you, Mr.
And we have some
Chairman.
updates with that one as well.
Yeah, just working through, not a lot of updates tonight, but working through, again, as the weather has turned, the activity has certainly increased if you've driven by the project. Working on the sidewalks and the installation of the lamp posts and everything throughout the project. We've been working through, and our engineering team working through required soil testing steps with Weston and Sampson for the Town Green, Picnic Grove area. Some additional meetings on that in the next couple of weeks. And the band shell itself is being designed, or final designed, in preparation for production. Some of the final touches, if you recall, there's going to be sort of a nameplate on the top of the band shell. It's going to have the town seal, and it's going to say Cheshire kind of in a curved shape underneath, which we felt was most appropriate, especially because Bartlett doesn't necessarily identify it, especially for folks maybe coming from out of town, and Cheshire sort of, it's going to be a landmark kind of piece, we feel, of the park there. So happy to move that forward. And again, they put the foundation in for the bathroom. That's moving along very well, as the weather has allowed. So probably a lot more updates at the next meeting, but they're steadily making progress, and things remain on schedule. As we had talked about, I think last time, some open questions will be when Eversource gets more involved to finalize the electric connections and whether there's any electricity connections, if there's any delays on transformers or necessary components there. But as of right now, we've not been made aware of any, but we're keeping an eye towards that. So again, it's going on very well, and look forward to more updates in the next few weeks.
Questions for Mr. Kimball? Seeing none, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, John.
So one question, when, we previously had a council committee that was kind of keeping up to date with that. Has that stayed in place? Is there a council committee that the team meets with regularly, or is that not something you disbanded?
Well, yeah, we haven't met in the last few months, really, since the transition. Certainly could bring that back. It's been a little bit, I guess, coinciding with a little bit of a lull in construction, of course, over the winter months. But there's a lot more activity and a few more decisions that are coming along the way. So we certainly would be receptive to reinstituting that.
It's not my call. I enjoyed it. I thought it was helpful at times, but it's really your decision if you think that's appropriate, Peter.
Yeah, we've had a couple phone calls and stuff, John, but I would agree with Sean that a lot of it has been because of, the fact that they just cleared snow out of there finally, from our last storm. So, but no, I don't see why we couldn't stand that up again and have the three of us involved in those meetings. Yeah. No, I think it's a great idea. Yep.
Sure.
Which brings us to new business, and item A is the approval of General Services Administrative Assistant 1 reclassification. Ms. Kramer.
Be it resolved that the Town Council approves Resolution 031-224-2. Be it resolved that pursuant to the recommendation of the Personnel Committee, the Town Council hereby approves the General Services Administrative Assistant 1 reclassification to a General Services Administrative Assistant 2, moving the position from a TH2 to a TH3.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Ms. Kramer, discussion?
We had a nice meeting this week last week, and it was described to us that there would be I believe a $3,800 increase to the budget for the year. The position is currently being filled as the higher position at the lower pay grade, title, and pay rate. And this staff member is already performing the duties of filling in pretty much any vacancy that the town hall has for the day, a jack of all trades kind of position. And I felt that it should be brought to the town council because of the appreciation of the resource management of our staff already in town hall. And I think that position saves us from having to hire a plethora of other positions in different departments. This one person works in all the departments in the administration. Did I leave anything out?
Questions? Seeing none, all those,
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Velleber.
Sorry about that. Just a quick question. What is part of it, what's the relationship between the town and some discussions between the town and the unions, and what?
The union fully supported the upgrade, and they signed a memorandum of understanding. They supported it because she is working consistently out of classification, and they agreed.
Good. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Item B is the acceptance of the fiscal year 22-23 annual comprehensive financial report, otherwise known as the audit. Ms. Pearson.
Be it resolved that the Town Council approves Resolution Number 03-12243. Be it resolved that pursuant to the recommendation of the Audit Committee, the Town Council accepts the fiscal year 2022-2023 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report.
Motion and a second from Mr. Velaber. Discussion, Ms. Pearson.
So the Audit Committee, which consists of Councilor Jinks and Councilor Velaber, and I met with Clifton Larson Allen on the 15th of February, and the audit generally was determined to be clean. And we had a comprehensive discussion. I feel we were all impressed by the presentation, and so I just welcome any questions councilors have at this point. And Jim Jaska, if you'd like to add anything.
Yeah, just add a couple quick comments, but
Sure.
as you said, the financial statements for the year ending June 30th, 2023, had a clean opinion from our auditors. That also includes state and federal single audit reports on our grant programs here. So they didn't have any findings, question costs, or concerns over any of our control structures. So I was pleased that there was absolutely, no findings of any significance. They do have a few recommended suggestions, which I think we made some significant progress, both at the town and Board of Ed. Those mainly have to do with technology controls and documenting procedures. So and that's something that's ongoing. We're always trying to update those types of things. Just wanted to mention too that there was a large surplus in fiscal '23. It was mostly due to favorable taxes, grants, investment income, and departmental revenues. And we also had some favorable expenditure activities. So it was kind of like spread out across amongst all those categories. And that increased our fund balance to be at a point where it was 12.57% of our expenditures, and our policy is to maintain at least 10%. So that's good news, and I know when we present to the rating agencies next week, that'll be something we can, brag about a little bit. So good financial results, good clean opinion, and I don't have any concerns, and I was really happy with the process this year.
Mr. Walsh.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Jascott, and your committee, your crew there that worked so hard to keep this town so financially stable. I think a lot of people in this town don't realize the kind of work that you do and how important it is to help this town continue to do what we're doing here. And just make sure you keep going to your doctor, stay healthy. Don't, we need you here for a long time. But I want to thank you personally for all you do for us. I think it goes, sometimes it gets pushed behind the scenes, but what you do is so important for us, and I appreciate it.
So I want to push that down to all the department heads.
Absolutely.
And here and at the Board of Ed and all the staff. Believe me, they do a lot of work behind the scenes.
Thank you.
To get to what goes in here. And finally, I'd just like to say there is a lot of really good information here. I think a lot of people just put this on the shelf, but it really, there's an overview that provides a good summary of the financial activity, the economic activity, as well as capital project activity in fiscal '23. So that, coupled with statistical information and trend tables, I think it might be helpful even during the budget process upcoming. So.
Mr. Malone.
Thank you as well, Jim. As having served on audit committee, I know how hard you work and what a great job you do. Just have a quick question. We had worked on something last time to get a kind of a third person on a fraud hotline. Did we establish a new person for that yet or
We did. I
not?
think we switched out to Fiona.
But you have someone. That's the most important thing. Great.
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Jenks?
Thank you. So this is my first time serving in the audit committee. One of the things I learned is that when the auditors are really excited about your audit, you don't get a gold star, you don't get an A+, you just get a no comment. And it's, that's the highest compliment they can pay you. But obviously there's a lot that goes into it. It isn't just looking at the procedures and policies and our records and our balance sheets and so on. So, they look at all the grants that we have, and they look at how kind of well we're fulfilling those requirements and the financial management of those grants. So the auditors spend about a month or so here working with Jim and other people in the building as far as going through all of our financials. So it's a big project that they undertake. It's a credit to you, Jim, and to your staff members and department heads here that we do so well in these audits, and it shows that we're really in great hands. So thank you to you and everyone else involved.
Thank you.
Mr. Veliber?
Thank you very much. I too am new to audit, so it was a great experience to see that. And but I mean, obviously having the opportunity to know how hard you work and everyone that works with you on that, and it's good to see obviously the coordination also between you and the Board of Education, because obviously. As mentioned earlier, they're not an insubstantial part of our budget.
They pay half the bill.
Exactly, which is nice. But I just wanted to again, congratulate you and thank you and everyone involved in that to see. Congratulations on another great job. And it's also good. We had good working relationship with the new auditors, and I think that was really a good start going forward. Well, not new, but but we're going to be, it's good. It's a good, I think it's going to be a good, it's been a good exercise for all of us to learn how that works. So thank you.
Mr. Jascott, for me, the audit serves to emphasize what I already know, is that you and your department do a tremendous job. That includes Mr. Kimball and his office, as well as all the department heads and everyone involved that is involved in this town. So thank all of you, and you happen to be the one standing here. You're the finance guy, so you get the accolades, and I would accept them greatly, and thank your colleagues as well. Any other comments? Seeing none, we will take a vote on this, right? So all those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And following up with some more audit stuff, Ms. Pearson, the appointment of a fiscal year 23-24 auditor.
All right, be it resolved that the Town Council approves Resolution Number 0312244. Be it resolved that pursuant to the recommendation of the Audit Committee, the Town Council appoints Clifton Larson Allen, LLP, as auditors for fiscal year 2023-2024.
Mr. Jenks on the second. Thank you very much. Ms. Pearson.
And so, yes, again, during discussion, we were all incredibly satisfied with Clifton Allen Larson, and so we've been with this company for the last 5 years. We didn't see a need to change. This is the final year in our contract, so we chose to stay with Clifton Allen Larson for the 2023-24 year. They have a strong relationship with already our existing team, and so.
If I could just throw out, I didn't have any major problems. I kind of like the team they have working on our engagement right now, and I see no reason, to rock that boat. We are in a 5-year contractual arrangement, and this is the 5th year, so I think it's a good idea to keep going with them at this point.
Questions? Mr. Malone.
So is the fee changed this year? I'm not clear on what the fee is.
Yeah, they, in your packet, I did cross out a couple of the numbers that were in the original proposal, which were discussed a little bit last year at one of our budget meetings. And they did increase the last 2 years of the 5-year engagement. And, you know, I will tell you that there's only a couple of firms out there right now. The audit field has changed drastically in a short period of time compared to where it was 10 years ago, where it seemed a lot of firms were aspiring to get some summer help, yeah, or some, you know, work for their employees in the summertime. And that's completely changed. A lot of the firms that were in this field have stepped away because it really has gotten very technical and specialized. And that, and along with a lot of other professions, I think everybody's having trouble keeping staff. So they did raise their prices. I personally think that we were very low fees historically here, and the fees that they adjusted to, I still think are below market.
So when did they raise us? This year?
It was discussed last year.
I don't remember it
Yeah.
going up that much.
It was at the very tail end of the budget process, and there was, I know there was.
So they're committed to 80 and 85 this year, and then next year 85?
The 85 is for this year. For this
85
year
is, this
coming
says
up.
25, 24,
Yeah.
25, I see.
It's for the year ending fiscal June 30th, 24,
That's
but it's
competitive.
really paid for in 25.
And you think that's competitive, Jim?
I do very much, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I did a little bit of legwork on that too, and
No,
feel
I
very
know all the things you're saying are true in terms of the market, et cetera, so.
Anyone else? Seeing none, call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Tim.
Thank you. Brings us to item D, the establishment of a sports recognition study group. Ms. Kramer.
Thank you. Be it resolved that the Town Council approves Resolution Number 031224-5. Be it resolved that the Town Council establishes a sports recognition study group, and be it further resolved that said study group shall be responsible for developing a means to recognize individuals and organizations who have made significant contributions to local sports at a location at Bartlam Park, and also a process for vetting and selecting individuals and organizations. And be it further resolved, said study group shall submit their recommendations and plans to the Town Council no later than September 30th, 2024. And be it further resolved, the 5 members of said study group will include 2 representatives from the Town Council, 2 members of the public, and 1 member of the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh, for the second. Ms. Kramer, discussion?
I believe that moving forward, as Cheshire develops a bunch of new recreational facilities, we're engaged in a bunch of development projects. We have a history of strong sports involvement over Cheshire's history, and we're trying to discover a way to recognize the importance of volunteerism and the contributions that individuals have made to Cheshire's sports renown and our continued sports success.
I will just add that the plan is to establish the committee at tonight's meeting, if it is successful for my colleagues, and then name the committee at our April meeting. So, any other questions regarding? Mr. Walsh?
I would just ask that maybe this group discuss not just sports organizations and individuals. There are a number of individuals in this town who are not just sports related, who have done things for parks and rec and things like that, that maybe not are directly encompassing sports, but have done a lot for this community. And I would say maybe it could be a discussion of this group as well. Almost like, you know, I know the high school does a Hall of Fame, and it's not just a sports Hall of Fame. I think it's a Hall of Fame for all, you know, past graduates who went on to do great things. And I think maybe that's what we can look for in this group as well. I would like to have just a little bit of a discussion about it at least, and maybe bring it back to the council to see if it's something we could do.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh, for that comment. Anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Brings us to item E, discussion of potential agreement with Connecticut NEMBA for construction and maintenance of trails at Yankee Expressway Highlands open space property. Mr. Kimball.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So no action requested tonight, but this is a discussion we wanted to have with the town council as we move forward. We have been approached really over the last year, but a little more in earnest with some meetings over the last few months by the New England Mountain Bike Association. Their treasurer is here tonight, Francisco Perez, I see out here, and also a Cheshire resident, who will probably be able to answer any questions that you may have. But in short, they would like to propose a series of mountain bike trails on the Yankee Expressway Highlands property. That's the property in the northwest corner on the other side of 84, very edge of Cheshire on the Wolcott border, and where we constructed last year, completed the construction of a small parking area for access to the property, and also the subject property of the $50,000 state grant we received and appropriated in December for wayfinding, signage, kiosks, trail improvements, and construction. So sort of a lot of symbiotic things going on there at the same time. But we've had a series of meetings. We had one just last week with, I know our town planner, Mike Glidden, who's here, also John Gawley from Park and Rec, town attorney, as we talked about how this arrangement could work, what the agreement would be, and how what NEMBA would bring to the table in terms of volunteer work to construct the trails, but also maintenance and some monetary contributions towards the establishment of the trail network that they're seeking to have there on the property. So, we think it's a really intriguing idea. It's a great property, I think, for this use. There's not already an established, predominant use, say, horseback riding or really even just regular hiking, as you may see on some of our other wonderful open space properties. So if we were going to do something like this does seem like a pretty ideal spot. We know it's been used, in the past for sort of unauthorized, I guess, if you will, access and cycling through. So it'd be nice to formalize something and make sure that it's an approved use that we establish for the property with the blessing of the town council. One idea that I'd throw out just before we talk about a little more of the process, and maybe Francisco can give kind of some of his thoughts. Again, in your packet, you should have kind of the most recent update to their proposal. But there's a series of regulatory steps that we need to take, as we discussed with the town attorney, who can also chime in if I leave anything out. But certainly, we know there's wetlands on the property, and we'll need some inland wetlands approval. That would need to be flagged. We'd need some engineered and finalized construction documents, if you will, for the trail network, so that we can confirm they build what they say they're going to build and that it matches our expectations. And so all of that comes with, of course, costs to establish all of that. So one of the things, as I mentioned before, the $50,000 grant, we would propose, and I had a brief conversation with Francisco about the idea of using, say, $15,000 of that grant that the town has received and maybe matched by NEMBA towards some of that engineering and construction document production that we would need to get through the regulatory process and everything else. So something that kind of put on the table. Again, no decision for tonight, but we want to make sure we're giving them correct direction as they start to spend some of their time and capital moving forward this proposal. We want to make sure everyone's on the same page. So maybe first I'll just turn it to Jeff if I left anything out in terms of your view of the process, and then maybe Francisco can talk to you guys a little bit.
That was a good overview. One of the things that will have to happen at some point is for the council to make a referral to planning and zoning for an 8-24 review by the Planning and Zoning Commission, but it's premature to do that until the wetlands are flagged and there's some engineered drawings that can be provided to the Planning and Zoning Commission for purposes of that review.
Mr. Perez, would you like to come up to the podium and thank you for being here.
So, good evening, everyone. My name is Francisco Perez. I'm actually the treasurer for Central Connecticut NEMBA, the New England Mountain Bike Association, and I've been living in Cheshire for 17 years now. You know, beautiful town, my town. But I want to thank the council. I want to thank Sean. You know, it's been great. Thank you for meeting with us. You know, a few weeks back, Mike Glidden, the director of Parks and Rec, John Gallock. So we do have the expertise. You know, NEMBA is an organization all over New England, so with headquarters in Boston, and we have different chapters. So we have members, and we receive financial contribution from those members. That's how we get the funds. And when I first met with Sean, I mentioned NEMBA will assume all the costs necessary for this work, from building bridges, from parking, you know, maps, kiosk, signage, anything, all the infrastructure, because we do have the expertise, not only with municipalities and different towns, but with the state. We do a lot of work. We maintain most of the state parks and forests where mountain biking is allowed. We maintain, we build the trails, we design the trails. We have a lot of experience, and we have a great opportunity, in my opinion, to deliver a great park, not only for mountain biking, but multi-use, trail running, hiking, lots of activities. It's more like a fitness park, and the topography of these parks, like about 300 acres, we have walked that property extensively. It really provides something to really increase, you know, the quality of life that we have here in Cheshire. And with me, I actually have Mick Ferraro. He's actually the community outreach, you know, from the New England Mountain Bike Association. So you have actually more experience than me that working with the state.
Yeah. So real quick, and Francisco does a nice job telling our story. My name is Mick Ferraro. I'm a regional director for the New England Mountain Bike Association. Just so you guys understand the scope of who we are, with a broad stroke, we're 35 chapters across 5 states. We're a 36-year-old trail advocacy organization, a singular 501c3 that has been around for a long time. We're one of the oldest mountain bike organizations in the United States. 11,000 members, and we're a volunteer-based, member-based community that has been doing this for a long time. We're always great. It's always great to see things like this happen. And as a Simsbury resident, I want things close to home. But from Maine to New Hampshire to Rhode Island and Connecticut, we cover a lot of territory. I think what's important here is that we've done this before. We've done this through towns. We understand MOUs. We understand the legality of it. We understand the insurance of that. Being a 501c3, this is something that, again, we've done across the entire region. I have been out to the space. I know Cheshire, I know outdoor recreation is growing for the state. We work a ton with DEEP, state parks, state forests, Bureau of Natural Resources, inlands, wetlands, vernal pools. This is what we do. Again, we are volunteer-based, but we're a motivated group. It's community-centric. We know how to fundraise. And this is an exciting opportunity here for Cheshire and for the state of Connecticut. You know, I know that the governor and I know that DEEP is pushing hard on outdoor recreation, and this is in line with what we want to do.
Questions from my colleagues? Mr. Milone.
So I think this is wonderful. I'm fully supportive of it in general. I have a son who's a mountain biker, and he loves it, but I also know it's very dangerous. So I have a couple of questions. One is, who's responsible? Is the town? It's on town property. There's going to be a lot of bikers there. They're not going to be Cheshire residents. They're going to be coming from all over the state, other states. Who's responsible for injuries, et cetera? Like, I have other questions. So let me lay them out. Secondly, what priority do you have on these trails if you get involved? In other words, if you're there and I'm not part of your organization, I want to mountain bike, am I excluded from doing it because you have priority? I want to know if we have any less priority as residents or just average people if we're not part of your organization. Those are my 2 questions.
Sure. First is we just had this conversation with Canton for their pump track that we're designing. This is a skate park. This is a town insurance. when NEMBA walks on there, when we build trails, when we have tools out on the trails, we are insured, we have all that in our COI, that'll be covered. Once the people are out there recreating on the space, it's a town insurance, it's a line item. Again, when we build trails, they're for everybody. There's no priority. It's shared use, it's hikers, it's runners, it's cyclists. We educate, we do signage, we do all those things. There is no priority. You are there to share an open space and recreate with everyone. And that's the way, we're a mountain bike organization, and we represent mountain bikers, but we're trail advocates. We want people outside, we want people doing things, whatever that is, and nobody takes priority at all.
That's great. Great answer. Thank you.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes, thank you. And just curious, and I know that's a hilly plot of land, so I don't know how much hiking is being done, but I get concerned about when you're saying there are shared hiking and biking trails, about right-of-ways and things like that. I know you have to educate. We have enough issue on our linear park where, people are complaining about bikes coming flying through. I get concerned here where people are going to be hiking on that trail. I mean, perhaps, do you guys just do bike trails, or do you do hiking trails, and how wide are these trails?
Yeah, I think that's a conversation as we get into the build and the design. I think there's a recreational experience for mountain bikers, and if you have a son who's a mountain biker, I'm sure you find out that, we want to have there's a certain experience that you want as a mountain biker that may differentiate from a hiker. With that being said, there's always user conflict. I deal with it every day, every trail network that I come into, across the country. What we do is we sign things, and we make sure that things are properly signed. We make sure that we try to build trails directionally. We try to make those things a reality. Sure, if we can. Now that becomes a whole conversation of trail density. How much trail can we actually put on this acreage without crossing into wetlands and doing things like that? But again, education, signage, being good, responsible community, individuals is a key part to that.
And that's the case, in most of the state parks and state forests. Most of the trails are, multi-use. You have even bird watchers, horseback riding, and they all coexist.
Yeah, we try. It's hard.
Ms. Pearson?
Thank you. As someone who knows that property very well, we've been hiking that property for many, many years with my family. And so I guess my question, I'm echoing similar concerns in terms of the right-of-way, in terms of specific trails for hikers, specific trails for bikers, some trails that cross over, but clearly addressing the hiking needs in town is something that is paramount to me. And I know I see Environment Commission Chair Karen Schnitzer in the audience, so the conversation with inland wetlands, I expect Karen Schnitzer will be in attendance, and I'm addressing some of the issues that you already highlighted, vernal pools, the wildlife, and how that will influence. My husband was chased by a bear on that property, so I know we've talked about this. There have been moose back in that area of town, so there is a great deal of wildlife that this will interrupt, and so what will be the effects? Those are things that we hope we'll see vetted in the weeks, months to come.
All fair, and I think working with Bureau of Natural Resources, Forestry at Deep, and we always outsource with Burns and McDonald to make sure that the environmental engineering part is critical. Again, we're there to steward the land. We don't want to make an impact. We're sharing space with, we're on the bear's property. We have to be aware of that. And again, I think when we come to a community as an organization, we build a coalition. If there's hiking groups, if there's equestrian groups, these folks all have agency in the outdoors, and we want to make sure that they have a part of it.
And I guess the only other thing I would like to mention too is parking, because I know the existing parking lot is very, very limited. I know I've talked with folks in town in terms of accessing on the other side in Cheshire. I know we have a new development. I don't know if there is any opportunity for extending parking, or if that has been analyzed.
I think that parking lot actually can hold, a significant number of users. And in fact, we have actually received a lot of good feedback from businesses you know, in the nearby community, there is a diner there. They would be very welcome. I mean, those hungry trail runners and mountain bikers, when they finish to go there, they were very welcoming. You know, we talked to them. And I think it's going to be really good for the businesses. So they would probably allow, you know, parking, not official. The official parking is right there, but they can hold. And we do have, that's the case in many state parks, you know, where the parking lot is actually even smaller than that. And they can hold people.
I
One
don't
of the
say that
things
parking lot that
Mike
you-
mentioned, you know, no big groups or no, is like, depending on the trail density and the popularity of the place, you know, it could hold. You know, the parking lot is actually good enough. And going back to your question on the concern on the coexistence of hikers, I'm a hiker myself, and it's a question of design too. So we have the experience to design a network in a way that is actually good. In this case, Yankee Highlands, you start high and go down. It's like the Grand Canyon or Shenandoah National Park. You start high and then you have to go back. So we have a preliminary loop in which hikers and mountain bikers or other users are given the choice. If you are at the midpoint of going down of the slope, you can actually have a return. And it's something that makes sense. It's not going to be a spaghetti that makes no sense, a bunch of trails, what am I going, or backtracking. You have a loop that is. And also another thing is for the trails, to make sure that the trails are sustainable. So we know a thing or two about trails. If you build a trail, especially on something that is so steep, down the slope, water is going to find its way through the trail, and that trail is not going to last. So you have to build it along the contour lines, and the terrain is beautiful to do that. So you're gonna have a lot of good exposure to beauty, something that is aesthetically pleasing to the eyes of the user. Whether you are a bird watcher, a mountain biker, a hiker, you will be fully enclosed in nature. And that's what we want, something that is pretty.
Just one more, just last one. You talked about working with different coalitions, and so I don't know if you have worked in the past with the Connecticut Forest and Park Association, but I know the folks there have been looking at that particular open space area in terms of the Quinnipiac Blue Trail. They have actually scoped out, I know in years past, potentially trails connecting the Connecticut Blue Trail through Prospect and down to Sleeping Giant. So I just hope that you will
we work
engage in
with
those conversations too.
CFPA and their new executive director. We're doing a huge project with CFPA right now in the Pog State Forest, and so they're friends, and we share a ton of space with them. Yeah.
I'm going to go Ms. Kramer, Mr. Veliber, Mr. Jinks.
Thank you. You just started to touch on my question, actually, and my question has to do with maintenance. Cheshire has a lot of land. We have a land trust, a lot of open space. And over the years, I've heard that trails do fall into disrepair. They become dangerous, unusable, and that becomes a burden on the administration of the town to try and maintain these places. Who is responsible once this is set up for maintaining not only the safety, you said sustainability, but that still needs some sort of intervention, because not just animals are using the trail, mountain bikes are going to tear it up in a certain way. Horses will use the terrain and erode it in a certain way. Who takes over that responsibility?
I'm glad you asked that question, because NEMBA is, and actually I put that in the proposal, in the initial proposal, and it's the ongoing maintenance of the trails. And first, as I mentioned before, is just to build the trails in a way that they last. We know a thing or two. It's, the type of slope that, you're gonna put on that trail, the inclination, bench cutting, but the afterwards. So we build the bridges. Those bridges are built to last over 25 years on ground contact, the wood that we use. The spring cleanings, we do that in the Naugatuck State Forest, West Rock State Park, QC. No, I was in Nasahegan, so we do all the maintenance, the ongoing, and we are the stewards of the land.
I think that to that
Working
end,
always with the town.
To that end, too, it's an agreement, typically an MOU with the town. so far as we have open and closed days, we have scheduled trail work days. You know, we want to maintain, and I think one of the strong points of our organization regionally is that we are like really motivated volunteers, and it's a really volunteer-centric group that wants to get out and do these things.
And another thing is, we do have the resources, the financial resources. When I went to and I met with Sean in the beginning, I said, Sean, we can pay for the kiosk in the parking lot, the map, the bridges, the wood. We do have the financial resources. I know the town has, you know, the grant from the state, the 50. If you can help with that, great. But if not, we are investing in this. And beyond that, that's just me, you know. And I have told this to you, Sean, and I tell this to my colleagues in NEMBA. It's not that I'm talking to any town. I'm talking to the town where I have lived 17 years. This is the town where my daughters were raised and educated, from Darcy to Highland to Dodd to the high school. So I'm invested in this. So it's like we want to deliver something that is spectacular, something that increases really the quality of life here in this town.
Mr. Veliver.
Thank you. I mean, I've echoed, I had some of the same concerns, so thank you all for raising them. Obviously, the lawyer in me is always concerned about the liability for it and, you know, what happens to it. Obviously, it's not limited to mountain bikes. It's, but were there, and I'm looking at the map that's sort of in the packet here that's there. Are these the squiggly lines? Are they? I'm trying to figure. Are these proposed? What proposed lines? Okay. And are they different levels? One of the questions I would have is there different levels of, I'd say, like skill or different levels for it's like if you're skiing, there's a green, there's a blue, there's a black. You know, like is that going to be something that you would see in a park like this?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. And somebody mentioned signage. I think you mentioned. We truly believe in signage because hey, that's how the experience of the user is going to be. We want, you know, when I spoke to the town management, you know, we want to put kiosks in different hubs. You know, it's not that, hey, you have one kiosk here with a map at the parking lot, and then you don't see anything else once you are like a couple of miles in. If you are there, once you feel that you are in the middle of nowhere, you're gonna have a kiosk, you're gonna have a map there with trail difficulty, okay. Which we don't have. Talking to Sean and Mike Glidden, we don't want to do anything crazy or something that is a Red Bull. Some of those things that you see on TV, right. We don't do that. We want to do something similar to what you see in a skate park, what you see in the state parks, the state forest. That's what you're going to see.
I don't feet, miles, whatever, however you want to measure them. How much space do you think you would get out of a piece like this? What's the length of trails that you think you can generate?
Exactly. This is an estimation, and if you see the length of trails there, that was a preliminary walk away from wetlands. Because again, to build sustainable trails, they have to be dry. It's going to be like about 20 miles.
Okay. Nice. Okay.
In a loop sense. Not just a bunch of trails, so it's a loop where you have a midpoint, second point, and a final point.
And then just related to that, because I don't know how that plays out, how many people at a time do you think could utilize that park where they're not either potentially, you know, on top of each other, running into each other? I mean, is there a certain number of people that, you know, when it gets too crowded? And then I guess the question is, you know, you mentioned you'll be sort of maintaining these things, but who's monitoring how many people are there? How many, or is it just a free for all?
I mean, it's a free for all. Okay. But it's a sure. You cannot say it.
I think that people start to take care of it, and while the maintenance agreements are in there to make sure the trails are stable and fix things that may erode or fall apart or address, you know, problem areas, like. People will go to that park and they'll take care of it and they'll start to pay attention, and then people will start to let you know if there's a blowdown, and there'll be a Trail Forks app that somebody will get pinged on and say, hey, that tree's down. And so you'll see when these communities, particularly in towns, you know, where there's people that their kids go to school here, you know, it's a it's a domino effect. It's self-fulfilling.
It's a free,
Yeah,
well,
and the-
going back to you, to
Yep.
the trade density, Rockland is a great example in the town of Madison.
Okay.
You have, like, it's probably the most popular multi-use mountain bike network in the state of Connecticut. And you never see like the density of people going because the network is so extensive, like similar to what we have here, like 20 miles, and the trails are directional that you don't have any issues with that. And then we also, with the municipality, right, because we work with the state a lot. The town of Pomfret, that's actually our latest project from NEMBA. They just got approved to build even more trails. And the feedback from the town is like the only regret that they have is the town of Pomfret is we don't have enough businesses for people to spend money here because, you know, they get visitors. It's actually good for the town.
Thank you. And just my last question is, I guess, how would I qualify? Is this your park on town land, or is this a town park that you just maintain?
The latter. This is your land.
Okay.
We just want it.
Okay.
We just want to like build a great outdoor recreation experience, and it'll be yours forever. And if at any point you want to raise it and, you know, tear it down and say it didn't work for us, then that's your discretion. But we want to build a recreational experience that will be rad.
Perfect.
At no cost to the town.
Perfect. Thank you very
At no
much.
cost to the town.
Mr. Jinks?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Francisco. Good to see you here. Good to see Nemba here. So 4 years ago, my group, Bike Cheshire, had a mountain biking event out at Eyes Farm, and we were out there for 5-6 hours. There's trails behind Eyes Farm. It's called the Woodlands. Probably had 50, 60 people out there throughout the day, of all ages. Little kids on bikes, grown-ups, you know, older folks on bikes. So one thing I'd like you guys to speak to the sport a little bit as far as who's going to be using the park, who's going to be using the trails, who mountain bikers are. And then also speak a little bit more to, first of all, before I go on, I just want to say thank you to Mike and Sean and whoever else in town has been, John Golick, who've been really supporting this along the way. It's great that we're having this discussion. When we had that event, Bike Cheshire had that event, I'm not such a big mountain biker myself. I think I'm too big for the sport. But the vision was that, you know, if we had mountain biking in town, we had breweries in town, we have ball and socket in town. You've created elements where people come to Cheshire for the entire day, you know, to spend money here, to go to our attractions. So that was kind of the vision. That's why, you know, one of the reasons why I pushed to have mountain biking here somewhere. You know, initially we were thinking the Woodlands Trails, although that's a small piece of property. Francisco, you and I talked about the diminished a few times, but come to find out it's not allowed in that property. So and lo and behold, we have this great property up in the north end of town that we're not using. That, you know, this is an ideal use for that property is mountain biking. So, you know, like I said, speak to the sport a little bit. Speak to the kind of people that are going to be using it. Speak to, you know, how beginning riders can use it and you know, advanced riders can use it. You know, all the same. But also, just tell us a bit about how mountain bikers, how they'll. You kind of went into a little bit as far as, you know, it's a community that cares about trails a lot. You know, they're not going to go out there and ride when it's too wet. You know, and there are, as you mentioned, the trail apps and things like that. The community kind of, you know, takes care of the trails and is aware of what's happening on these trails to the point that you know, everyone kind of knows what's going on. So it's not so much free for all as was said earlier. It's there's a lot of self-stewardship that goes on that it really makes it all sustainable. So before I kind of take all the words out of your mouth, go ahead and tell us a bit about all that, please.
I think that the organization kind of tells the story of a mountain biker in that we've been around for 36 years. We started as a grassroots organization with one chapter in Boston. And in that time, we've grown from 35 chapters and over 11,000 members. I did my first mountain bike race 27 years ago, and it was because I was a college soccer player and I thought I could ride a bike, and it was not true. I had to learn, Mountain biking today is like this diverse community of people that are hikers, that are fishermen, that are outdoorsmen, that want to get out and do and experience outside in a different way. The other side of that is I think there's some fear when people hear mountain biking. They hear fast or racing or ripping downhill, and like that's like 0.2% of this population. The other 99.8 is exactly what Mr. Jinks just referred to. It's like adults paying taxes, they have kids, they're parents, they have jobs, and they want to get out and experience it. That's where we are with mountain biking today. It's an evolution of 35 years of building a community across this region, across the country. Now today, what happens is that when we engage with towns like this, we go and we build these, trail networks, and people, they drive in the morning with a cup of coffee, they go, they get gas, they ride, they go to the pizza shop, they get gas when they leave, maybe they hang out and go to the bar, whatever that is. That's what it looks like today. My dad went on golf trips. I go on mountain bike trips. It's changed. That's exactly what happens. My kids today, I have 14-year-old twin boys, they're mountain bikers and they're snowboarders. Like, this is the next wave that's coming up. So, I always, particularly when I go to and talk to folks at CFPA or DEEP or in Maine, we're so limited in space here. That's the problem with like Connecticut and stuff. When you get up to Maine and New Hampshire, it's wide open. But mountain bikers here are all like, they want to get outside for a few hours on the weekend. That's what this population does today. And they're really like you and me. It's not ripping downhill. We just want to go ride for a few hours and hang out and have a beer and call it a day. But then the flip side of that is our kids are coming up and we're seeing this younger generations. I think the most people you'll see on those trails is when a CCAP, Connecticut Cycling Advancement Program team shows up at your mountain bike trails and they spend the whole day there. So it's like two things for the community. We're an evolving group, it's a changing group. And the fears of like fast ripping, blowing past a hiker, those days are gone. They're gone, they're well behind us. We're stewards of the trails, and that's really what we want to do here.
And it's actually a very nice blended community in which you can find, I ride with an attorney, I'm a banker, then you have a doctor, then you have somebody who hikes, or like myself, I hike while I transition to mountain biking. You have, I don't know, it's a blended community, people who were transitioning from road biking to mountain biking, because mountain biking is actually has evolved from the 90s right now, and it's even getting better. Like the quality of the trails, the awareness of people, and it's a great community. And we, going back to your point, we do care about like that ongoing maintenance. We do it from the heart because we want, is it our best interest that the trails are sustainable and that the trails are rideable.
I said the other day in a meeting, I think it was with Commissioner Dykes, that mountain biking's not punk rock anymore. It's not, it is wonderful trails. It's a low-key experience, a lot more. I'm on my way to an e-bike, and I'm proud of that. That's it. It's like this thing is moving down the line. There's kids coming up behind us. Towns and communities are starting to understand that, and it's a real push for Connecticut. And that's the other thing. It's like I know coming across this region, people go to Vermont, people go over the place, but Connecticut has it. Connecticut's got some of the best mountain biking in the state. Or in this country, certainly in the region, and it's an opportunity to take advantage of it for sure.
Mr. Wolf?
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I just want to express my support and just pure gratitude for bringing this to this town. I love bikes. I've been riding bikes forever. I've been mountain biking since I was the 80s, and I'm not that old, but. And I just want to say that this is a community of people who genuinely love this sport and want this sport to succeed in town. There will be people who will question and think that it's a punk rock thing, but it's not. and people who ride mountain bikes just want the trails to be maintained and want it to be a fun sport for everybody. It's a community. And I also just want to encourage the town, although NEMBA is going to be the primary driver of trail maintenance, the town can participate in that. Join NEMBA, be part of this. It's a group that is not just outside of Cheshire. They want to include Cheshire. That's my number one thing, is that this is not just a group of outsiders coming to take over our park. This is for Cheshire. And I think that that's critically important, and support NEMBA.
Oh,
Thank you.
And that's something that I actually look at. When I look at the green spaces that we have here in town, this is something that to me is so, ever since I moved to Cheshire, that my daughters can go and they like the Greenway, they take it. They go to Mixfield Park, my wife walks the dog, and I do it too. We take a hike. We have Brooks Bay Park. It's not in Cheshire, but it's like close by. We have the Blue Trail. The addition of Yankee Highlands would really accentuate that across the state. Put Cheshire on the spot.
Mr. Veliber.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate your presentation, because obviously this is something that I'm not particularly familiar with, so I appreciate the opportunity to learn more about this. I think I would need a bear to inspire me to ride the bike. So, but when I look at this, and so, and I mentioned earlier about when I was talking about free for all, I wasn't talking more about the ripping, although I'm sure that it may be I was talking more about just the gatekeeping of it. When someone shows up, is there someone there to or is it sort of like I just show up and I can go out on the pack? And one of the things, the reason I wanted to bring that up is because you mentioned the idea of e-bikes. And I guess my question is, what has the experience been for other parks where when you build something like this, of course, now my concern would be now you may have people who might abuse those trails. That is, they may bring in motorized vehicles, whether e-bikes or just regular motorcycles onto those trails. And what has your experience been with that as far as that goes? Because that to me would sort of be like, I would be sort of ruining the experience for everybody, right? That's not the intent of this. But somebody may say, oh, wow, look at these great trails. I can now go out there and go use my motorcycle or whatever on those trails. And I'm just curious what your experience has been with that.
Going back to when I put the proposal to the town, and I put it pretty clear, was like any trails that are built in that land are for non-motorized equipment. Now, there is an evolution on e-bikes. Yeah, I'm getting old. I'm getting old. So I might get one. However, on the e-bike, there is a class. E-bikes have different classes. Some are stronger than others. There is one that is rideable, and it doesn't cause erosion or damage to the trails. And that's acceptable in many neighborhoods. But I will leave that to the town.
Yeah, e-bikes are a deep dark hole. I mean, this is a separate town meeting if you want to talk about e-bikes. And that's certainly a conversation that we need to have as far from a town land management standpoint. If you want to allow the e-bikes, I'll give you all the educational information. You guys have to make that determination. We can do it collaboratively. We're going to run into problems with dirt bikes. We're going to run into problems with every trail network we have. It's inevitable. Well, again, I'll defer to like education. This community will not stand for it, whether it's through social media channels or word of mouth or but you'll see it happen. It's just one of those situations where it's palpable and it'll come to fruition. As far as you show up, I mean, you bring your bike, you show up, you hang out, you go for a ride, you come back, and you go home, and you're a nicer husband. That's my life.
Perfect.
Yeah. That's it. That's really the way it works.
Oh, that's how it works. Oh, I knew I was missing something.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's just how it works. But I want to emphasize that. I think you'll see within these communities that people They care.
Yeah.
People really, really care.
Well, I appreciate this presentation. This has been very, and I think this, in general, as John mentioned as well, I think in general that I'm supportive of this, and I look forward to it. I just, I just look forward to seeing what we can do and work together, and so I appreciate this presentation. It's been very eye-opening and very enlightening. Thank you.
I feel like I should readdress that I'm from Simsbury when we talk about bears.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And we will follow the lead of the town, whatever it is that, you need from us, we'll be happy to discuss and financially.
Gentlemen, thank you. I will echo, as my colleagues have, we truly appreciate your presentation, and we look forward to this moving forward. There are some hurdles we still have to go over, but I think we can get across them and hopefully arrive at something together that's going to be great for this community as well as for your organization. So we look forward to continuing the discussion. So thank you. Thanks for being here as well.
Thank you.
Which brings us to item F. We start a couple bridges here. Authorization to apply for Connecticut DOT Local Bridge Program 50% matching grant to replace South Brooksville Bridge over Willowbrook. Mr. Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Be it resolved that the Town Council approves Resolution Number 031224-6. Be it resolved that the Town Council authorizes the application for the Connecticut Department of Transportation Local Bridge Program 50% matching grant for the replacement of South Brooksville Bridge over Willowbrook in the amount of $1,301,000, contingent upon the approval of said capital bridge project by the Town Council. And be it further resolved that the Town Council authorizes Town Manager Sean M. Kimball to execute any and all agreements and documents necessary for said grant.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Thank you, Mr. Jinks, for the second discussion, Mr. Wolf.
So this is a bridge that has been around for a while. It was built in 1960, and it needs to be replaced. So this is an application to have the state, as part of their bridge replacement program, help us out with that. So this is a necessary fix. Mr. Kemet is here if you wanted to.
I was going to say,
probably more of an expert on this than us.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
Hello, everyone. Merrick Kemet, Town Engineer. And beside me is the Assistant Town Engineer, Justin Stone. We're sitting because we're on for 5 items on the agenda, so we're going to be here for a little bit.
This is your section of the agenda.
Yes. That is correct. The bridge was built in circa around 1960, so it's about 64 years old. As we know, everything falls apart, so it needs to be replaced at some point. So we're requesting authorization to apply for the Connecticut Local Bridge Program, which does a 50% match. We have an estimate for the construction as well as the design to be a little over 2.6 million. So with the 50% match, we're looking for a town responsibility of 1.3 and change. The bridge itself is located over Willowbrook. It is west of Avon Boulevard, right next to the linear trail on South Brooksville Road. We did have an inspection that was done this past July 2023, and there were many defects that were noted. So, with that, there is need for this repair, and we do have a program that could help us financially, so why not apply for it? So that's why we're asking for authorization. Now, if we do get the award, it doesn't obligate us to actually go forward if we can't down the road afford to do this, but at least let's try. So that's why we're here.
Questions?
If I could just add,
Sure,
and
I'm
you'll
sorry,
see, as maybe a good time to note, our budget books distributed this evening. You'll see in the capital budget, in year 3 of the capital plan, you'll see this out there for $2.6 million. So again, a logical question, doesn't this need to go to the voters? Yes, the town share would. Once, again, if we have a green light from the state to know our offsetting 50% costs, But that remaining 50%, as Merrick just said, is still over the $500,000 threshold. So you would see this at a referendum 2 or 3 years from now, depending on the outcome of the capital budget. But preliminary stage here is just authorization to apply. And as Merrick said, it doesn't obligate the town any further, but it gets us in the queue for the local bridge program for the state.
Questions? Mr. Velaber?
Just a quick question. In reading it, it says it was performed, ideally, replacement should occur within the next 5 years. So, so it's not like really bad, but it's getting bad, right? Kind of where we are?
Well, it's pretty bad, but yes, it's gonna last a little bit longer, but it takes time to design it, it takes time to get the funding, it takes time, to construct it, so.
And the other question is, if we were to approve this, is there a limit, Sean, maybe you do, I said, is there a limit at which case if we adopt it now, like that we have to do it within, like within 5 years, do we have to, if we approve it, does this, the potential grant, does it say you have to complete the project within a certain time frame? Obviously, you put it in year 3 of the budget. I wasn't sure if we had to do it.
The only requirement, I believe, is that we have 1 year to complete the design aspect of it, not the construction.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. So the vote is 8 in favor with 1 abstention, Mr. Mylone. Thank you. Brings us to another bridge. Item G is the authorization to apply for Connecticut DOT Local Bridge Program supplemental application for the Industrial Avenue Overstream Project number 9025-0030. Mr. Wolf.
Be it resolved that the Town Council approves Resolution Number 031224-7, whereas the total cost for the Industrial Ave Bridge Capital Project has increased from $851,607 to $1,010,180.49, and the town has submitted an application for a 50% match grant from the State of Connecticut Department of Transportation for said project. Be it resolved that Sean M. Kimball, Town Manager of the Town of Cheshire, is authorized to sign the Local Bridge Program supplemental application and any associated agreements between the State of Connecticut and Town of Cheshire for Industrial Ave Overstream, 0.2 miles north of Sandbank Road, bridge number 025030 for a total amount of $505,000, $505,090.25.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Do I have a second? Mr. Jenks, thank you. Mr. Kemen, you're on a roll.
Keep going. This one is Industrial Avenue is the culvert replacement. Just like the other one was a preliminary application. This is now the supplemental. So this already went through the first stage of getting authorization to apply for the grant. So since this time, we actually put this project out to bid. We received 8 bids. The low bid came in lower than what we originally anticipated. So the supplemental application actually drops the values down. So, but we still have to reapply to, or resubmit to the state with a resolution for acceptance by the town. So.
Questions? Nothing, Sean?
Just a point of clarification, it is, this is a little bit of a confusing one. If you recall, we had the Industrial Avenue culvert replacement first about 3 or 4 budgets ago. Subsequently, we had authorization to apply for the initial $851,000 that you see in the supplemental application. That is being increased. As we said, though, when this went to the voters just this past November, we had a larger amount. What Merrick's referring to is we had a larger amount that we had from the initial, before the pre-bid numbers. So it's great news that we have a lower cost overall project. This is still an increase from the very beginning of the phase of the project over and above what we initially had in that capital budget. So I know that's a little bit confusing, but happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Mr. Walsh.
Yeah, I was going to ask, actually, It seems like we've been discussing this culvert for years here, and I guess it goes to show that, you know, we could be discussing the South Brooksville Bridge for years to come as well. Just as, since I don't build bridges, the one on South Brooksville is 2.5 times the price of this one. Is that just because this is just a smaller culvert versus doing the whole road and everything? Is that where the big difference is?
Yeah, they're two different designs.
Two different.
South Brooksville is probably a little bit more advanced with it's a bridge type.
Is the brook or the river, whatever it is, going through there bigger too? Is it wider? Is it?
I'm not so sure about that one. It's just the type of the structure itself.
Okay.
I think it's,
The depth of the water.
I think there's less depth, there's less depth there, so it's probably a different type of structure that has to go over there that makes it more expensive, yeah.
We're also dealing with a roadway that's more travelable than Industrial Ave.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of factors that are involved.
All right, so on this one, what's the next step is, what we're gonna be voting on? I'm a little confused as to
Yeah,
what
so
we're.
this one, we already have all of the approvals in place,
Right.
and including as I said, the voters approved this at the referendum back in November. So we have now ample budgetary approval to move forward with the project. We're applying for a little bit less state grant reimbursement, right? You're only eligible for 50%.
Right.
Because we have the favorable news from the bid results just the other week. But yeah, this otherwise, from a standpoint of actually appropriating the funds, you've already done all of that actually in 2 different tranches over the last 3 years, and it's ready. Now
When do you expect this, then, once we approve it, to take place?
Well, once it's approved, I'm gonna turn around and contract with the low bidder. And they're gonna get started this year. It'll be
This year,
project.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Call for a vote. All those in favor? Vote passes by a count of 8 in favor, 0 opposed, and Mr. Mylone has abstained. Brings us to item H, the acceptance of the sidewalk policy. Mr. Wolf.
Be it resolved that the Town Council approves Resolution Number 031224-8. Be it resolved that pursuant to the recommendation of the Planning Committee, the Town Council hereby accepts the sidewalk policy as presented and attached effective March 13th, 2024.
Mr. Jinks with the second. Thank you very much. Back to the table.
To the table. This is a request to adopt a sidewalk policy that was created. Just a quick brief reading of the intent of the policy. I just want to state that the sidewalks represent an important part of our transportation system and a considerable investment by the residents of Cheshire. With a continued increase in commercial and residential development, Cheshire's need for a comprehensive pedestrian network has grown. This policy will serve as a foundation for the field work required within the town of Cheshire and will supplement the ADA transition plan, which you'll also see later on, next item, as a set of specifications in which to carry out all operations concerned with the management and maintenance of the pedestrian network. As part, the engineering department will assess pedestrian infrastructure and classify them by using 3 methods of management. We have repair and replacement, connection and gap closure, and condemnation. Also part of the policy, we have a section that allows residents to file complaints or requests of the sidewalks that are in place now. And as part of that, we have set up a procedure for allowing those residents to actually come forward and get those concerns addressed. So whether someone wants to have a sidewalk created or actually one removed, they would have to come to us, follow these procedures, which you have in your packet, and we would, at the end of the day, we would be in front of you for that permission. Justin, is there anything that I missed?
No, and the condemnation that we have inside of the policy is really just a lot of measurements, a lot of, displacement crack measurements for our field crews and both Eric and myself to have some criteria to go on. That way we're not just going out to a sidewalk and saying, I don't like this one and getting rid of it. So that's not what that is. I know condemnation sounds really scary sometimes, but we're not just going to get rid of sidewalks because you don't like them. It's if a sidewalk is in disrepair, it's a long length of it. If we don't see the need for it, we can propose that it gets condemned as long as it meets some criteria. That's why it's a lot more explicit in here than the other stuff.
No, I think this is a policy that was much needed, so I thank you for the work that went into putting this together. Questions? Yes, Mr. Veliver.
Just a question, I'm good, when we're looking at this, is there gonna be like a level of quality for each sidewalk, like, like we do with the roads? We look, there's some discussion, certain roads are, in good shape, the different levels of roads. And I guess is part of this plan to sort of map out the sidewalks and determine which sidewalks are good, so as far as terms of like looking for the future of planning for replacing them? That is, I guess, because obviously my concern is, are we gonna be dealing with fixing existing sidewalks, or or are we gonna sort of like adding new ones, as we go? Because obviously there's a huge expense that goes into obviously adding sidewalks and those types of things, so.
Right. So the policy is just to give us tools in order to do the maintenance on the sidewalk and as a benefit to the town. What you're talking about is actually covered in the ADA transition plan. So a condition for the sidewalk would be something separate. This is more like we'd have a condition of a sidewalk, and then this is the policy that gives us the ability to do something with that sidewalk. If that makes sense, or if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm trying to, or is anyone making, like, are you just, so it's gonna be on a case-by-case type basis? You're not looking like we do with the roads of determining, okay,
like
the
a
road
piece-
on this one, or the sidewalk here is good, whereas that's not.
So like a PCI rating for a road is something that we can project out 2, 3, 4, 5 years if we want to. The sidewalks, not so much, it's, they are subject to a lot more a lot more to the elements. It's really hard to actually map all of them. We have 115 miles of sidewalk in Cheshire. It's very difficult to maintain it and get mapping of all of it and the condition of all of it. So this just gives us the ability to go to a call to a concern and some guidelines to go by so we can propose a treatment to it.
An example would be if a resident comes to us and says that their sidewalk has a crack or is in disrepair. We'll go out there, evaluate it, and determine whether we just need to replace one panel, need to replace the entire sidewalk, or does the sidewalk even need to be there? Is it gonna cost more money to replace the sidewalk versus just removing it? For an example, further example is if you have a cul-de-sac with 2 sidewalks on it, and it's a short sidewalk, do you really need both sidewalks? So that's something we really need to think about, and economics does play into this, right? It's gonna save the town money if we don't really replace it, we can just remove it, so. That's what this policy is for, is to guide us.
Thank you.
I'm going to go Ms. Allard and then Ms. Pearson.
Hi, I don't really mean to jump ahead, but when reading through the material, I noticed that the sidewalk policy doesn't address crosswalks, so we're talking about connectivity. Does this encompass our crosswalks out of scope? Is there a plan in place for residents who might want to address a concern regarding a crosswalk?
That could definitely be brought up as a concern, absolutely. It does not address crosswalks specifically, however, common sense would be that if you need one, if it's required, it would be part of the design.
And would residents then use the same tools and resources to communicate that need with?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Ms. Pearson?
I just wanted to merely thank you for providing clarity here. I think this provides clarity, makes a lot of sense, so thank you for all your work.
Mr. Jinks?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you guys for You can finish.
No, I just wanted him to raise a point, but.
No, just thank you guys for putting this, this originated in public safety, in our Public Safety Commission as an idea, came out of in part from a survey that was done where people, one of the 2 or 3 most mentioned things were that we needed more sidewalks. And Public Safety had come up with this proposal for this sidewalk, to be a sidewalk review board for the town, to be kind of a go-between between the public and the town. But thank you for, I think it's a great addition of the condemnation aspect of this and the repair aspect of this, and kind of bringing all that together is a huge upgrade to what was done in the Public Safety Commission. One addition or one kind of tweak to the process I wonder if we could add, it's pretty small, is just to, when someone comes to the engineer and says, I want a sidewalk, it says you guys are going to do a review first before it goes to public safety. I'm just wondering if we could just CC public safety for whatever request comes in, just so that they have some idea of the request, that they have an idea of what requests are coming in. They don't need to do anything about it until you guys obviously kind of pass it over to them. But if the request could just be kind of CC'd to them in some way, I think it'd be valuable for them to know that it came in, so that if they get questions from the public about it, or someone that submitted their request to you, that the Public Safety Committee kind of knows what's going on.
Oh, that makes great sense.
So it's just a little tweak to the process. But otherwise, I think this is it's a great step forward in terms of how we manage our sidewalk inventory and going forward. Hopefully, we will find some areas where we can complete some connections and make some neighborhoods a bit more walkable, and so on and so forth. Thank you.
Mr. Mylone and then Mr. Walsh.
So I concur with others. It's well written. I think it's well needed. And I think it's going to be very helpful. Appreciate that it came out of the public safety or the suggestion, but I think you did a nice job with it, Merrick. Going beyond this, and I haven't not looked at the budget yet myself, and it may be in there. I know we've talked about traffic studies, we've talked about planner development. This is kind of a micro look at sidewalks, but on a macro level, I don't know if we're planning for where we need to plan for sidewalks long-term, where we need to plan for, bicycle routes, et cetera, long-term. I know this, Jim, this is something you're very interested in. And is it in there somewhere in our budget? Are we going to be talking about this separately? But if we're not, we should make it a topic of discussion one way or another, because it's appropriate, and it should be something that we focus on. If it's at least is through the budget talks, that it's being planned for.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be talking about a traffic study during the capital.
The traffic study is important, but the bike ped portion of the study, I think, is really critically important now. As I said, my opinion. I think the traffic study should be, to a certain degree, delayed until we have some, implication from all the development that's occurred, to see how that's affecting our roads, et cetera. But you can project all you want until it actually occurs. You don't know exactly how much traffic's going to happen. But the bike ped portion of it, I think, is something that, and that would go well with this, if we can get some big picture vision. So that's all.
Thank you. Mr. Walsh.
Two questions. One, you talked briefly about the condemnation of a sidewalk. So when you do that, so does it get dug up, or you just say, well, we're no longer responsible, or what?
It would get removed.
It does, will get removed.
Yeah, it would get removed,
Okay.
and then whatever area that's been removed would get restored to its original.
Okay.
So like if a sidewalk went through a driveway, you would dig it up from the driveway, you would patch up the driveway wherever it was.
Okay, yeah, okay, I just wanted to make sure. And second, I guess I'm a little confused. The sidewalk policy, is it more about the maintenance of the current sidewalks, or is it about creating new sidewalks? Both. So there's two different things here. One is the maintenance, which we know it could be expensive to maintain, because, I live on a road that was built in the 50s, all the houses, and they have sidewalks, and, you start seeing the black coming through there, so it's getting towards that point where they're all going to need it. And that's an expensive plan because you have to dig them all up and then replace them all, versus then going to other areas where you're going to put new ones. And I'm hoping that, planning and zoning is, I know they are. They're paying more attention to new developments and kind of forcing developers to create sidewalks so that the town isn't responsible down the road where we have to create those sidewalks. So I do hope they continue that where they need them. And like you said, you don't need 2 sidewalks on a cul-de-sac, Yeah, so.
Need them, yes.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item I, acceptance of ADA transition policy. Ms. Allard.
Be it resolved that the Town Council approves Resolution Number 031224-9. Be it resolved that pursuant to the recommendation of the Planning Committee, the Town Council hereby accepts the ADA transition plan as presented and attached.
Thank you, Ms. Allard. And a second for Mr. Walsh. Thank you. And back to the table we go.
All right, so this one is a request to adopt the ADA transition plan, which was created, we'll just finalize this year, but it took about 4 to 6 months to complete it. The American with Disabilities Act of 1990 was written to ensure that disabled individuals shall not be excluded from participation in or denied benefit of or be subject to discrimination under any public program or activity. Federal regulations require that a public entity, this municipality, that employs 50 or more persons shall develop a transition plan setting forth a plan for taking steps necessary to achieve the ADA compliance. So you should have in your packet a draft ADA transition plan. This was researched and put together from many documents and inspections and research, again. And basically it's not only to be used as meeting the federal regulations for doing that, but it's actually a tool for the town to do the inventory of the sidewalks and the ramps, to determine if the ramps are suitable, if they have to be replaced, or if they have to be upgraded, as well as the sidewalks. So that's where your other question came, is that's not part of the sidewalk policy, that's part of this plan, as far as the sidewalks and their condition. Justin, you want to take it from there?
Yeah, so the ADA transition plan was technically due in 1993. We're a little behind. We're not the only ones that are behind, luckily.
Just a little
So this plan, the outline of it, is pretty much just setting the foundation for us to move forward and try to get the infrastructure into ADA compliance or PROAG compliance, which I know Mr. Bylone probably has heard PROAG a million times whenever it finally gets adopted, but to make sure that we are in compliance with it. So every 5 years, we will revisit this plan, see where we are at, how much we've done, moving forward, what we can do to better suit the town.
Questions, Mr. Walsh?
Thank you, and thank you for this. I'm happy to see that you put the corner near my neighborhood. We've been waiting for this state to finish on Curve Hill, and hopefully this year it might be getting done. But I'd like to remind everybody that the American Disabilities Act is not a choice. It's a law, and it's time that we did bring this law into Cheshire. I would like to see it more with some of our school buildings. I know we're getting 2 new ones, but there's still one out there that is not ADA compliant, and I think we need to do that. Living with somebody who has a disability, I understand the difficulties of trying to go up a 1-inch step or a 1-inch curb, and I think it's important for everybody in this town to realize this isn't just so that a bicycle can not have to go up a curb. This is so somebody with a disability, whether they're walking or on a wheelchair, can get around this town, and it's very important. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time to spend on this, because like I said, this is not a choice. This is a law, and it's a law that's been in 30 years now, and it's time. So thank you for doing that, and I look forward to having a whole new corner at Curve Hill and Route 10 in the next 6 months to a year. So thank you.
Mr. Jinks.
So in looking at the sidewalk conditions pie chart here, it says 11 miles are poor. Can you kind of give us an idea what poor sidewalk means, what that looks like?
I can actually give you a picture. If you go to page 11, at the bottom, that's an example of a poor sidewalk. It's not in ADA compliance. The slopes are wrong. There's no tactile warning pad. Oh, sorry, page 10.
I don't know page numbers. I don't know page numbers. Are you looking at these?
Yeah.
Section 4.2.1, table 1.
That's Mr. Walsh's Curve Hill. Yes.
So that would be considered a poorly rated sidewalk. The next page would be a poorly rated curb ramp. So it would have significant cracks. It's dangerous to both people with disabilities and people without disabilities. And it would be recommended for replacement or removal immediately. So there is no repairing of a poor rated sidewalk. It is replacing it or getting rid of it. Those
Right. And are the poor, quote unquote, poor sidewalks, do they tend to be in certain neighborhoods, or are they kind of dispersed all over the place?
They're all over the place.
They're all over the
Yeah,
place?
it's age.
Yeah.
And some of these were built as bituminous concrete asphalt sidewalks. They tend to just deteriorate over time. They're also not in compliance with town standards now, so that would automatically give it a poor rating. But a lot of the asphalt sidewalks are also in really bad condition.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Seeing no other questions, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
I would like to say one more thing if I could.
Sure.
I asked Justin to be here, to be part of this process, and to give him credit for the sidewalk policy and the ADA transition plan. I think he did a terrific job. He did most of the legwork, so.
Yeah, I wrote both of them.
So give him
Yes,
the
thank
credit.
you.
Great job.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here and hanging in. Next item is item J, call for a public hearing for an ordinance amendment to bonding requirements, section 14-1 F2 excavations. Ms. Allard.
Be it resolved that the Town Council approves Resolution Number 031224-10. Be it resolved that the Town Council will hold a public hearing at 7:00 p.m. on Tuesday, April 9th, 2024, in Council Chambers, Town Hall, 84 South Main Street, Cheshire, Connecticut, to consider an ordinance amendment to bonding requirements, Section 14-1 F, Section 2 excavations. Be it further resolved that the town manager shall cause a notice of said public hearings to be posted and published according to law.
We have a motion by Ms. Allard. We have a second by Mr. Jinks. All those in favor of the hearing, calling for, do you have discussion? Okay. No. All those in favor, then. Motion passes unanimously. Brings us to item K, another public hearing, this one for an ordinance amendment to prohibited hours, section 13-32, regulation of peddlers and solicitors. Back to Ms. Allard.
Be it resolved that the Town Council approves Resolution Number 031224-11. Be it resolved that the Town Council will hold a public hearing at 7:00 p.m. on Tuesday, April 9th, 2024, in Council Chambers, Town Hall, 84 South Main Street, Cheshire, Connecticut, to consider an ordinance amendment to prohibit hours in Section 13-32, regulation of peddlers and solicitors. Be it further resolved that the town manager shall cause a notice of said public hearings to be posted and published according to law.
Thank you, Ms. Allard. And a second from Mr. Walsh. Thank you. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Brings us to item L, consideration of tax incentive application from the Bryad Group for Homewood Suites in the TIF district. Mr. Jinks.
Thank you. Be it resolved that the Town Council approves Resolution Number 031224-12. Be it resolved that the Town Council hereby denies the tax incentive request from the Bragg Group for the development of the 125-room Homewood Suites, Lot 2, Stonebridge Commons Plan Development.
I have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Mr. Walsh, thank you. Discussion. Mr. Jinks, is there anything you want to, I know we discussed this at the last, this was a topic for last month's meeting.
Right. I don't really have that much to add. I think we had kind of covered this previously in a couple different settings. So, the TIF group had, the Economic Development Committee, TIF group had denied it, and I think we're more or less following their lead.
Questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And Mr. Mylone, I assume that is an abstention.
Abstention because we were doing engineering work for their project. I just think it's appropriate.
Excellent, thank you. Motion passes 8-0-1. Mr. Mylone abstained. Thank you. That closes out the new business, brings us to item 9. Mr. Kimball for the town manager's report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In front of you, you should have a copy of the town manager's report. I'll try to breeze through it here. But I am starting with discussion of the fiscal 25 operating and capital budget proposal. The town manager's recommended operating capital budget has been submitted to the town council, thus beginning the annual process of review and consideration before eventual adoption and establishment of the property tax mill rate for the next fiscal year, July 24 through June 30 of 25. The operating budget approval process must be completed by April 30th. The capital budget must be approved by November. However, those projects requiring a referendum vote in November need to be approved by late August. The recommended fiscal 25 operating budget represents a 5.97% or $7.94 million increase to the total expenditures driven by increases to the Board of Education, proposed budget of 5.97% or $5.07 million to support Cheshire Public Schools, the general government increase of 4.74% or $1.82 million for all other municipal services, and an increase in debt service costs of 24.2% to fund principal and interest payments on debt incurred to fund previously approved capital projects. To fund this recommended budget, the townwide tax levy, which is net of all non-tax revenues, state aid, and use of fund balance, would need to increase by 7.4%, that's $7.7 million, which would have a mill rate established at 28.38 mils, down from 35.09 mils last year. So again, as the council is well aware, this 6.71% or 6.71 mil reduction is a result of the state mandated process of revaluation, which occurs every 5 years, and this year has reflected significant increases in property values, on average 37.3% for residential properties, when compared with values for the last townwide revaluation, which was in 2018. For the average residential property owner that with 2 average vehicles, this proposed mill rate would equate to an estimated 8.2% total tax increase, or $694 per year. So obviously much work remains to consider and likely revise this operating budget as presented to the town council. The shared goal of continuing to provide high-quality services to our residents and businesses, as they would expect, at the very lowest cost possible. The upcoming schedule for town council budget workshops and public hearings and information sessions can be found at the end of this month's report. The first workshop, which will be a week from tonight, Tuesday, March 19th at 7 p.m. in council chambers, will include a town manager's overview of the budget, also a public hearing offering the public an opportunity to provide comments, and then a workshop discussion with Superintendent Solon and COO Vin Masiana on the Board of Ed's proposed budget. So busy night next Tuesday. Moving on, just want to announce and remind folks of an annual Neighborhood Assistance Application process, the Neighborhood Assistance Act Tax Credit Program. Applications are due June 3rd, 2024. It's designed to provide funding for municipal and tax-exempt organizations by providing corporation business tax credits for businesses who make cash contributions to these entities. Each municipal agency or tax-exempt organization that wishes to participate in the NAA program must complete in its entirety the Form NAA 01. Applications are due by Friday, June 3rd, and must be submitted directly to the town manager's office. Interested organizations wishing to learn more about the program or have specific questions should visit the State of Connecticut Department of Revenue Services website, as the town's role is primarily administrative. Applications are approved by the municipality's governing body and forwarded to the Department of Revenue Services. And once an organization is approved by the state, businesses can receive a credit of 60% of their approved contribution to certain programs, or 100% in the case of certain energy conservation programs approved by DRS. Want to announce a land use decision-making presentation will be held April 10th, 6:30 p.m. The Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments, in partnership with the Town of Cheshire and the Coalition for Sustainable Cheshire, will be making an informative presentation on how local development decisions are made and how residents can best participate in the process. The event will be held at the Cheshire Public Library on Wednesday, April 10th, as I said, at 6:30 p.m. No RSVP is required. Some early voting information from the Registrar's Office. Early voting for the April 2nd, 2024 presidential primary election will take place in the lobby of Town Hall as required and through state statute from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Tuesday, March 26th, Wednesday, March 27th, Thursday, March 28th, and Saturday, March 30th. The Registrar of Voters have asked that we also spread the word that poll workers are needed, both for this primary and for the November election. Any questions on early voting, or if you're interested in becoming a poll worker, please contact the Registrar of Voters office at 271-6680. I had this from our last report, but the Senior Center Income Tax Program, the Senior Center is accepting appointments for the AARP Income Tax Program, which runs through the end of March. Please contact Senior Center for more details and schedule an appointment. And the filing period is currently open for the elderly and 100% disabled tax relief program, which runs from February 1st through May 15th. Income thresholds and credit amounts are available on the town's website. Also, just a reminder to check our Projects Around Town page, which we try to frequently update with more information on many town and state capital projects occurring across town, around town. To visit cheshirect.org/spotlight/projects for more information. And finally, recreation updates. Just please be aware that all town fields remain closed to organized league activity due to significant amount of rain we've received. There's significant turf maintenance and prep work that must be completed as the winter winds down. DPW and Recreation are working together to have the fields and bathrooms opened by the beginning of April, as is typically scheduled. Registration is now open for summer camps. Be sure to visit Cheshire My Rec. We're also seeking sponsors for the 2024 Bartlett Beats concert series this summer. Again, please contact the Park and Rec Department if you're interested. And lastly, the improvements to Mixville Park are underway. Cheshire DPW has begun work on expanding the parking lot with the drop-off area, as well as the future permanent home for seasonal ice skating. Additional improvements are planned, including sidewalks, the boardwalk for accessibility, as we discussed earlier at the public hearing earlier this evening, and improvements throughout the park, additional parking at the turnaround driveway at the end of the playground, and the relocation of the sand volleyball courts closer to the beach. Thank you to our engineering, DPW, and recreation staff for all their great work on this project. Lastly, the holiday hours. The town is closed on Good Friday, March 27th, but there is no delay in garbage or recycling. And as promised, on the very last page, you'll see a lengthy list of upcoming budget workshops and public information sessions and public hearings. So be sure to mark your calendars. Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Kimball, Mr. Malone?
I just have one question, Sean. When I looked at and Peter as well, when I looked at the schedule for the budget, I think was Wednesday, April 24th was the meeting for adoption. I'm going to be away that week, and it's important, I think, that I weigh in. Is it possible I'll be able to zoom into that, or can that be delayed till the beginning of the following week? I'm just asking.
I know we have a charter obligation. I think this is getting close to the last day we can do it. I would refer to, I'm looking at our town manager and our town attorney to see.
You don't have to decide
So
right now,
more to come on that, John.
Yeah, we can
We've got,
follow up.
you know, we're 6 weeks away. And
Yeah, I'd just like to be able to make sure I weigh in on that meeting. I'm available. If I have to zoom in, that's fine with me, if it's okay. All right.
Yeah, certainly Zoom might well be an option. Again, I know there was a lot that went into a lot of these dates in terms of folks' availability, so I don't want to overpromise, but I know the charter deadline is April 30th, so it is a few days clear of that. We just have to confirm I think there's a weekend in the middle there, but other
Yep.
than that.
No, that's good. Now is better than later, so, yep. More to come on that, John, thank you. Questions? Sean, thank you. I was happy to see the land use presentation is going to be talked about, so thanks to the COG, thanks to Sustainability CT and the town for putting that on. Brings us to reports of committees of the council. Starting to my left, Ms. Kramer.
I think we discussed earlier our meeting and changing salaries for payroll. I mean, personnel.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Wolf.
Nothing to report.
Ms. Allard.
Nothing new to report.
Mr. Jinks.
One thing I do want to mention is since Sean has presented us with the schedule for the budget committee meetings, we did add a Saturday edition or session this year. Thank you to Noel and Arnett and Sean for coordinating all of that, and to the other department heads that are going to be there that day, and including looks like Chief Drife actually would probably be here that day. So thank you. Thank you for being available then, and you know, the idea was to try and give the public a sort of different time and kind of opportunity to be a part of the process. So that's why we're doing a Saturday session. So thanks.
Ms. Pearson.
The Sustainability Committee met on February 21st. We had the Beautification Committee in attendance and the Environment Commission as well, presenting their indigenous and non-native invasive plants policy. I think we came to some agreement. The Environment Commission is going to be revising what they have and resubmitting it to us for consideration, and hopefully we'll have something for the council to review in the months to come. Energy Commission was also in attendance, and they shared their concerns regarding communication and energy usage tracking. So I think we're developing a plan to improve communication. We talked about the NEF environmental fee revenue and the compost program at which elementary school, or Chapman Elementary School. It's going well, and so we're expecting a report in the next month or two regarding usage and cost and savings. And then finally, we did discuss possibly expanding some of the recycling options at Public Works, perhaps. And actually, Don, your suggestion too regarding Yetta and the Chamber, Yetta did get back to me, the Chamber of Commerce did approve working with the town in terms of identifying businesses that provide recycling for hazardous waste. And so we are going to, our committee is actually tasked with coming up with some language that she will then share with businesses in town regarding businesses that do collect hazardous waste or provide recycling opportunities. And then we also discussed expanding opportunities at our transfer station here in town. Mattresses are something that are already on the docket, but we're also looking at perhaps other recycling that we might include at that site. And that's it.
Excellent, thank you. Chief, I know I had, earlier today, I told you probably 9:30, but all of a sudden I'm starting to feel like a firefighter sitting here, so. Brings us to item 10I, the referral of review of special appropriation dollar limits per charter section 7-3J to the Budget Committee. As part of miscellaneous, I have two things that I wanted to mention. On Friday, Mr. Veliber, Mr. Walsh, Ms. Pearson, Mr. Jinks, and myself attended the Chamber Annual Dinner. Very well attended. It celebrated the 50th anniversary of the Chamber. More importantly, at their annual dinner, they recognize businesses and business leaders, and also they do three very important awards: the Firefighter of the Year, the Police Officer of the Year, as well as the Educator of the Year. So I just wanted to mention that. On Sunday, I had the opportunity to represent the town of Cheshire in the New Haven St. Patrick's Day Parade. It was a little chilly, but it was a great day, and it was a lot of fun. Which brings us to liaison reports. Appointments. Nope, liaison reports first. Starting again to my left, Ms. Kramer.
Environment meets tomorrow night.
Mr. Wolf. Ms. Allard.
I have a lot to report from the Youth and Human Services. They're very busy people. On April 3rd, there will be a screening of the documentary titled Screenagers Under the Influence, located at the Cheshire High School Auditorium from 6:30 to 8:15 p.m. It's an educational film that provides guidance around some of the critical issues youth and families face today, including social media, vaping, and marijuana. On April 11th, there will be a blood drive at the Senior Center. April 16th, they're looking to book a speaker from SAM, Smart Approaches to Marijuana, to come and give a presentation about the impact of marijuana on youth mental health and the developing brain. These presentations are suitable for both adults and youth alike. Also, our youth members will be recording PSAs that will be played on the radio at the mobile station in town, focusing on vaping, marijuana, mental health, and opioid use disorder. Our youth members will also be doing an environmental scan of local establishments that sell vaping and e-cigarette products. They will assess each establishment for compliance around the placement and promotion of these items in the store, and provide each establishment with educational materials regarding the law and sales to minors. These initiatives are funded by our local Prevention Council grant and the opioid settlement funds. In addition, they will be bringing a group of young people to the state capitol at the end of April for Youth Services Bureau Day. There are a limited number of spots available, and those interested in having their youth attend should contact Michelle Picarello directly. And finally, the Cheshire Services and the the Cheshire Senior Services and the AARP Age-Friendly Community Initiative are collaborating with other town departments on programming like prescription drug drop-offs with the police department, scam education, grandparents babysitting courses, grandparents raising grandchildren, and other powerful tools for caregivers. For more information, please contact the Cheshire Senior Center.
Thank you, Ms. Allard. Mr. Jinks?
Just one report from WPCA. They did, at the last meeting, decide to form a subcommittee to look at the sewer map and potentially, I guess, redo or possibly extend the sewer map. So they did name a subcommittee, and I think they'll, obviously they'll begin to have meetings from there.
Ms. Pearson?
Parks and Recreation recognized Heather Fitzgerald as their Person of the Year for Parks and Recreation. Heather Fitzgerald was instrumental in working to encourage folks to vote in support of the referendum that ended up supporting the work at Bartlam Park South, and so she was celebrated. And then much of the rest of what we talked about has already been covered in terms of Bartlam Park and Dog Park we heard about today too again. So yes, we've already received a lot of news from Parks and Rec. Energy Commission also met, and they shared with me information in terms of where they've been populating the energy tracking usage in town. We talked about just obtaining additional information from the Board of Education, and I shared information with Parks and Rec from the Energy Commission regarding pool covers and the generator at the pool. That's it.
Mr. Walsh?
No report.
Mr. Velber? And Mr. Mylone?
Just quickly, the Building Commission is moving quickly on trying to move the prison cell improvements forward that was funded. The design was funded previously, and they're having a special meeting tomorrow night to discuss that. I won't be there. I'm flying out tomorrow morning, but they are moving quickly on that. I just wanted to report back to the council.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Mylone. Appointments. Mr. Wolf, do you have any?
I do not.
Mr. Veliber? None. Seeing none. Move to the town attorney's report. Mr. D'Onofrio? Council communications, I didn't see any in the packet, nothing that I had to share. Nothing for miscellaneous. We do have two items for executive session, union negotiations and economic incentive application. So I will, and there will be no action. There's only one item, and that's union negotiations. So we will scratch the economic incentive application, and it will be the Chief Drive show then in executive session. So I will. There will be no action coming out of executive session. So I will call for a motion to go into executive session. Mr. Veliber, second Mr. Jenks, to include Ms. Shepherd, Ms. Talbot, Mr. Jascott. Are you staying? No? Okay. Okay. Mr. Jascott, Chief Drive, and the dais. So we have the motion. All in favor? We are in executive session. Thank you.